going on, family? Make sure you guys get them likes up. Get them likes up. Green Gang, I see you. See you, Miss Kelly, Miss Parker. Stephen Day, I see you. Bethany. Double R, Big Bad Bull, Ghost. See you, Ronnie. Going on, family? What's going on? Welcome to Sage Talk on the Lapeef Network. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your afternoon. I know this is a treat for you guys, but Sage is out the country and his power was out on Sunday, so we pushed the show back until today. So you guys are definitely in for a treat. Green Gang, I see you guys in the chat. I see you in the chat. Shout out to you. Before we get the show started, let's get the housekeeping in order. Red Lipstick Vibes, I see you. Gabrielle, I see you. I know a lot of people that normally probably wouldn't be tuning in due to whatever the case may be on a Sunday. This is your first time here, so welcome. We do have a live show April the 23rd. That is April the 23rd. We have our live show in Houston. It's only a limited amount of tickets that is left. So make sure you guys go ahead and click that link that's pinned to the top of the chat to get your tickets. I just sent out an email. Depending on what email provider you use, it may go to your junk file, but it's very important that you monitor that email because that's where the updates are being sent. A lot of people are asking about the venue, and I did update you guys about that information. So monitor your emails. If you have purchased a ticket, that is very important, and monitor all the way up until. If you have purchased the tickets, I can't wait to see you guys. It's definitely going to be an epic show. So salute to you if you have purchased the tickets already. Shout out to the sponsor, Tej Hanley. Tej Hanley, Philly Tej. Make sure you guys go ahead and click that link. That link is in the description. You get 30% off along with a free gift. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that. And yeah, it's going to be a great show. Let's bring up Lee. How you doing, sir?
Hey, good afternoon. What's up, JR?
Can't
Hey, everybody out in the audience.
Yeah. I think they've been waiting on you, man. What happened to Lee? What happened to Lee on Sunday, man? But I gave him a heads up, so don't worry about it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Shout out to Ray. I see you. So, my God, this is the first, my first live show. Yeah, welcome. Welcome. Aaron B with the popcorn already. There you go.
All right.
And I see somebody reading the shirt. Stop over talking, black man, please. We need to hear our voice speaking. So there you go. All right, Lee. Well, welcome. I'm glad to see you. I know we missed you Sunday, but nevertheless, you're here. So that's all that matters right now. What you got in store for us today?
Well, as you know, the topic is Black men leadership and Black women fellowship. What's the solution? You know, I think this is something that as Black men, we need to instill within us as part of our core. How we lead, what style, what will be our guideposts, things that motivate us in life, and what will be our barometer. Leading versus following. This is an ongoing issue for many Black men and women in the community. Men proving sound leadership and women who can follow a man, not blindly, of course, but someone who can point out your blind spots and nonetheless get on your program without doubting every move and every instruction or direction. Why am I focusing on this problem and not the Will and Jada issue, fiasco, if I may say? Simply put, constructing a building oneself is better than tearing down another. Or maybe a better word would be deconstructing another. So many of us are busy analyzing other men's lives, but spend very little time bettering their own. Now, don't get me wrong. I know many brothers are developing themselves to become better and be better. But today's topic, I want to dig deep into how we as Black men truly become the leaders at the top of our game that the women in our life will follow us to never end. Leadership, to some, it's simple, and to others, it's extremely difficult. Obviously, to be a good or great leader, it takes work, like everything else in life. And in this space, the Black manosphere space, so many of us excel at improving the outward man. And to many, that's what counts. But to be honest and truly, a great leader have some basic elements or traits in them. So this is where I would like to begin our conversation and for us to delve into what is it that makes a great leader? That's my brief intro. So we'll take it from there.
All right. There you have it, folks. Make sure you guys get them likes up. Also, subscribe to the channel. We'll be posting the link shortly for you guys to come up. So if you want to get you a spot in the back room and listen, feel free to do so. All right, Lee. Have a great show.
Okay, appreciate it. Hi, everybody in the chat. Welcome again to Sage Talk. I'm your host, Lee. And as I was saying, I was planning this talk over the weekend, Thursday and Friday, Sage Talk, knowing that so many of you guys tune in each week. One thing kept standing out for me in my mind, the difficulty and the challenges of this conversation and how to best communicate it. I know this conversation may fall on deaf ears for some, but that I may stay true to myself, you guys, the audience, the Lapeef Network, it's necessary that we talk about it. First, I'd like to use an analogy to broach the subject. For those of you who are in maybe the construction field or tech field, many of you guys understand that what I'm trying to say is when you build something, usually it begins from the ground up and the inside out, not outward in and top down. Don't get me wrong. I know image is important. I understand. However, if you really want to make an impact, whatever changes you make must come from inside out and not the other way around. So hear me out. Give me a few minutes and I'll see if I can break this down for you guys. As Black men, so often we focus on the image we want to craft for ourselves, our parents, but rarely the essence of who we are or would like to be. My point is, who are you, Mr. Black man? What makes you you? In other words, what's your essence? Over the years on YouTube, Black YouTube particularly, we've had so many conversations about building up our bodies, you know, the look that the women would want to make us more appealing to them, to be chosen or be choosable. And of course, getting our money up, because without that, little else matters. However, if you are a structure, a building, let's say, it would be obvious that we are transforming ourselves the top down and from the outside in. And in any to build anything of substance, it's rarely done that way. Nonetheless, these are the cards that were dealt us. It is what it is. So today I want to talk about building from the inside out. As I stated earlier, who are you, black man, and what's your foundation? I would like to sum it up in one word. And this word we all know and are very familiar with, but I'm going to put a unique spin to it as I go into defining what I mean by that. And that word is character, which has so many components, but as its essence, I will call it our intrinsic value. Now, that's a financial term I learned many years ago when I worked in financial services on Wall Street. But for this conversation, I will use the definition that has more of a life meaning and the essence of it. So, intrinsic, belonging to a thing by its nature, the anatomy, certain muscles and nerves, something that lies within. Synonyms: native, innate, natural, or true to oneself. So, understanding your intrinsic value as a man has to go to the core of who you are. I've laid out three key elements that I believe are at the foundation of that. What I would call your core foundation to be a good or great leader. You must have principles, a code by which you live. That's what your principles are. You must have ethics, a standard that you hold yourself to, regardless of who is watching around you or whether you're alone. And you must have a moral compass, that which makes you the choices you make in your life, regardless of outside influences. For me, these are three innate, similar to muscles and nerves that moves one's body. These key principles should be the foundation of who you are as a man that strives to be a leader, starting with yourself and then with your surroundings about you, family, friends, girlfriends, and at some point, wife or wives. Why do I say that? Simply put, if you strip away the things that today's society values, what remains? For example, money. Money buys us cars, houses, and the accoutrements of success. Our physical appearance, our body, our fitness, our fashion, our style. Our resources, the wealth and access, power and influence that we have. If you strip these things away, who are you, black man? You know, the tangible things that society says if you have makes you valuable, those things that I just cited. And if you don't have them, you're not worth a damn. In essence, what is a black man's worth? How is he measured? Again, my question, what's at your core, black man? I will say this. Do not get me wrong. One second. Hold on one second. I just changed my page. Okay, I'm back. I know by now many of you are kind of scratching your head, maybe even mumbling. What the hell does this have to do with leadership or getting a woman to follow your lead? Well, let me kind of sum it up for you. For most women to follow a man, She must know what you stand for, what your non negotiables. Not every woman will say specifically or ask you questions, and some may or may not even know how to quantify it. But trust me and believe they know what it is in a man that they seek, and they will test you to see if you have it. Your character, that is, your intrinsic value. That things that makes you more than you, that makes you more than her. Every woman wants to know, how do I conquer this man? That's part of how a woman defines that she has a man worthy of following. Women in general need something to chase in a man. And this is one of the few exceptions when I will say all women, not some, but all. And mark my words, whenever she finds out what those core things are, she will test you. She will prove you to see if you are who you say you are. And if you fail, meaning you compromise yourself in a moment of weakness, in a moment of emotion, compassion, either in a moment of her pain or in a moment of your joy, if you compromise yourself, you're done. I'll give it to you in a different way. I'll tell you a little story that happened to me about 6 years ago. And this will only matter, I would say, to the men who have lived their life by some form of standard from a very young age. Let's say a teenager into early manhood and to your development as a man, that you have some metric that you carry yourself by, whatever that might be for you. I've always seen on television, I've read in books, and I've heard some of my male friends speak years past about love and the love that will make you do anything for a woman. And to be honest, I've never had that experience in my life. I mean, I believe that I've loved a woman, but I've never been like crazy head out of heels where I would do anything. But 6 years ago, I met a woman, very beautiful. And what's crazy about this story too? Because usually when I meet the prettiest woman, it's when I'm angry, when I'm mad. Something pissed me off, and I have a look on my face like, don't bother me. Kind of weird how it happens. But to make a long story short, I met this woman. She said hi to me first. I looked at her. I was in a bad mood. I just kind of mumbled a response. And we were going to the same city together. So when I got on the bus, she motioned to me to come and sit next to her. So I sat next to her. We started conversation after a while. And then we exchanged numbers. And I was going to get an FBI background check, but not FBI US, FBI out here in Central America because of the job that I was going to get. Anyway, she knew where the building was, so she gave me some instructions. But I got her number and she got my number and we started talking. This woman was drop dead gorgeous. I mean, she was an 8 rolling out of bed and hands down a 10 in makeup and a heels. She was just fine. And I said all this to bring it home that that's the only woman in my life that I found myself where I've broken my rules. And I will say to every man, I think it's important for you as a man that if you are so fortunate and lucky that you can find a woman that will cause you to break your rules, to test you at your core to see who you are as a man. And we had a rocky relationship because, like fine women go, they're demanding, egotistical, always kind of used to getting what they want. And there was a lot of riff back and forth between us. The relationship only lasted about 4 years and we broke up. But I will say this, at the core of myself, in the end, I had to regain who I am as a man. And I had to stick to my standards. And I had to tell her no. And I had to cut her loose. Because meeting such a woman in your life, a woman that you can't say no to, that you will bend your standards to. Once a woman know that she can break you, she will break you. And she will try her best to use you simply because, I don't know, I guess it's a thing they do. I'm not a woman, so maybe the women can speak to that that are in the audience. Over time, I thought she had lost respect for me. And one of the things I realized about respect in the eyes of a woman is that once you lose it, you can never get it back. And for 2 years, we have not spoken. And a week ago, she contacted me and she apologized for everything that happened in our relationship. She broke down. Now, this woman is arrogant. She don't bend for anything. She's a Scorpio. She's vindictive. I mean, she's everything that makes a challenging, great woman, someone you would want in your life. And for a weak man, can destroy many. I never thought this woman would ever contact me again. And simply put, I blocked her on WhatsApp. I blocked her on Messenger. I deleted her number and I deleted all of our messages. I had got to the point where I totally cut her off. So I never anticipated that we would ever speak again. But she contacted me and we have been in talking just going on a week or so, a little more than a week now. And she's trying to come back in my life. And I'm looking at everything and how it was in the past, both the good and the bad. And one thing I will say, if a woman that have ever broken you come back in your life, you need to start from scratch with that woman. You got to break her at every step. You cannot waver, you cannot bend, you cannot flinch as a man. I know this because I've never walked a life where any woman in my past have had me compromise. This woman had me compromise. My intrinsic value, the things that made me a man. For her, I bend. I bend. And I will say this, when she came back and she apologized, the one thing she said to me was, no one has ever walked away from me before. And I will tell you this, to gain a woman respect, like she will test you, you must break her. Most of what women bring to relationships, particularly in modern times, are intangible things, things you cannot see, feel, or touch. For example, love, a feeling that only they can interpret, loyalty, the quality that can only be proven, I would say, with hidden cameras, right? Or if something blow up in your face or don't. Care and support of you. I would say this probably is the only quality in today modern woman that you can kind of see if a woman cares about you. A woman that will prove with little or no prompting that she's willing to do the things that will make you happy and will go out of her way to do so. Obviously, there's one thing that all women can bring to a man, that's truly tangible, and that's children, a family. In time past, women used to cook, clean, and do many other things in the upbringing and the raising of children to show their value in relationships. But today, there are things that almost seem meaningless, words that the values of them can be weighed against a feather, and sometimes the feather will win. How do you get a woman to follow your leadership? And obviously, this conversation and how I chose this topic was because it is something that many men deal with. And it was something that I experienced in an aspect of my life that for 40, 50 years of my life, I was always in control. I always had a set of standards that I lived by, and no one compromised me. But I ran into a circumstance and a period in life where I was tested. And to a degree, I thought I failed that test. But now in retrospect, I have to reevaluate and see whether or not did I fail or did I pass? And I think every man would have to evaluate that for themselves. So, how do you know if, how do you get a woman to follow your leadership? I've also broken it down to three basic things. Be self assured, which means simply be authoritative in the way you speak, move, and act. Speak in a matter of fact way. You know, for those of you, and this is an old actor, Yul Brynner, and he used to play in the Ten Commandments movies. He was one of the pharaohs that was brother to Moses, was raised by Seti, and he became Ramses. And he used to speak in a matter of fact kind of way. So it is written, so it shall be done. That's what I mean by that. Be unwavering, meaning be firm in your decisions. Don't be double minded. Don't change your mind back and forth. Don't say something and then capitulate later. Never a good look. And never compromise on your core principles, your intrinsic values. Now, every man would have different elements that make up his core set of intrinsic values. Your core, your principle, the things that are non-negotiable, whether you have money or you don't have money. For you, that is self-determined. As I said earlier, the three core aspects of a man's intrinsic value. What are they? He must have a set of principles that he lives by. He must have an ethical standard, and he must have a moral compass, a code, a standard by which you hold yourself to, and a compass that gives you direction in life. I would like to ask the audience a question, particularly to the men. What are your three core intrinsic values? And how do you measure yourself by them? Now, I will throw out some things to kind of get your juices flowing. I know sometimes the mind needs prompting. So I'll give you some things to think about. And then we could come up on the panel for those of you who would like to have this discussion further, and we can engage in this. One, I would say, is never betray the trust of a friend. Don't sleep with other men's wives or women that you know are in relationships. And I think this is probably the most important one. Don't teach your wife something to hate you for. And I think for most women, they will probably say, don't cheat on me. So what I would say to both the most men, if you know you're the type of man that you can't be faithful to one woman, tell her that at the beginning of the relationship and let her decide if at some point, particularly if you are a high value man, because Kevin says high value men have options, but all options are not exercisable. And if you do decide to exercise them, a true leader let his team know what the expectations are for them to follow. So let her know from the gate, from the door, that you know what? At some point in this relationship, I may decide to take another woman. Can you live with that? I will be discreet. I will never disrespect you. I will not shame this family. You lay out the criteria, however, you are prompted to do so based on the relationship that you have. But if there's a criteria to by which you can deal with more than one woman, if that is something that is important to the woman in your life, negotiate it, work it out. That way she can never accuse you of betraying her trust. That way you don't teach your wife something for her to hate you for. Okay, this was a lengthy intro. Thank you guys for being patient with me. And I'd like to hear from some of the audience what you guys think, particularly both of the story and the essence of what it constitutes to being a good leader and how a woman of value, a quality woman, would submit herself unto you that you may be her leader and follow you without question. Females hate weakness. Absolutely. I agree with that. Any questions? Principles, ethics, and morals. All men should have these things. Most men don't. If you listen to the Black Manosphere, most men don't. And they definitely don't live by any. They use them to criticize others, but never to hold themselves as a measure. A double minded man is unstable in all his ways. Yes, Galatians 4 and 6. Anyone else? Yeah, for sure. Anyone wants to come up on the panel? Any of the gentlemen in the audience? What I would ask any of the brothers in the audience, have you ever met a woman that was so fine, that met every metric that you wanted in a woman? Intelligence, sexiness, her ability, how she walk and move, confidence, seduction, and just outward physical beauty without enhancements, because today many women today we see have a lot of enhancements, but I'm talking about a naturally beautiful woman. Yes, we know that, but do men have it? School of thought, do men have that? Do black men that you know demonstrate that they live a life in that manner? How do men obtain these things? What are these things? Be more specific. Well, it took me up until I was 50 something years old, 56, 57, before I met a woman like that. And she was 23 at the time. Well, I'm not sure whether black men give the impression that they hate black women. I think black men tend to fly off the cuff with emotional responses to not show weakness, particularly when you're unable to restrict a woman of interest from not doing the things that she's doing and you would like her to be in a different way. So many men have egos. So they will say things back to protect their egos. Okay, I don't understand. Susie Q. And the more natural we look, the more aggressive they say we look. What do you mean by aggressive? Because a smile will deflate. I mean, like I said, when I met this young lady, I was in a bad mood. I had to go about 60 or 70 kilometers to the head of the police department to stand on a long line. I was supposed to have had a ride, and my ride did a no show. And because they did a no show, I'm the type of person when I make up my mind to do something, even if the people around me fall short, I'm gonna still move and do what I got to do. I don't like waiting on others. So I moved forward. And it was because I moved forward, I met her that day taking public transportation, taking a bus that would take me to the main city. I was not in a very pleasant mood. I did not have a pleasant expression on my face. I was like, leave me the F alone. But she smiled at me, said good morning, said hello in Spanish, of course. I looked at her, kind of looked her up and down, and I mumbled buenos dias. But for whatever reason, she decided she wanted to get to know me. Hello, Kyle. What's up, brother? You're muted.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Miss Lee. I appreciate you.
No
First of
doubt.
all, glad to see that you're safe from that weather from over the weekend.
Yeah,
Many blessings
no
on
doubt.
that. But
No
I just
problem.
wanted to address your the topic in your question in regards to leadership.
Uh huh.
I really believe that a man, at least in today's modern day world, they have to kind of already be exuding a lot of these qualities in order for a woman to get on your program. You have to already be on that path.
Uh huh.
Even a lot of times when you get with a woman, maybe when you're younger, and then you guys build an entire lifestyle together. Um, I don't think that that woman considers her man as much of a leader as a woman who's just meeting that man for the first time, because the woman may feel a little bit of ownership in the progress. You know, she may have had a hand in the development over however many years, so she may not even see that man as the unequivocal leader versus a man who's already considered that person, and then they have to get on that man's page in order to be in his life. So I think that you really have to already be that person in your regular life, and then a woman has to get on your page in order for you to lead them at this point.
True, but uh, many times I would say the men that most women would meet that's already on their program now, they have the outward development. They don't necessarily have the inward development. And what I wanted to address in this talk today was the inner core of a man as opposed to the figure of a man, the accoutrements of success, the car, the money, the fashion, the style, the successful career or even business. the level of confidence. But is he the type of man that can be bought? What is his price? In Hollywood, they used to say, maybe they still do, some people sell their soul to the devil, or uh, a man that doesn't believe in anything can be sold. I forgot how the quote go. Can be sold anything, or something to that effect. I'm not sure if I'm quoting that correctly. Somebody swear in the morning said a billion, right? And that's the point. Whether it takes a million, 100 million, or a billion, at what point can you be bought? And what position that you may have that $1 billion can purchase you? Because obviously, if they offer you a billion, whatever you have is worth more to them.
Well, I guess my question, and this is like a question that I really don't have an answer to.
Sure.
Do women value the intrinsic and extrinsic values that men should have? So, in other words, if we're displaying these things, it's one thing for them to get on our page because they might see the benefit overall just in their lifestyle. But when it comes to valuing and appreciating you on a day-to-day basis, some women think that, you being bought, everybody got a price, you may as well get that money versus, I'm not going to compromise my integrity for any amount of money. And so some people these days might feel like you having a price is the kind of man that they may want versus a man with high integrity, high character. That's not really an exciting man. So, where do you balance excitement and trying to please the woman in your life versus your own purpose?
Well, I will say this: it really has nothing to do with excitement, because a man who has core principles within himself doesn't necessarily mean that he's a boring kind of guy. I think what you're hinting at is, if the man does not have the outward uh, trappings of life, most women today won't even find him appealing or attractive, because he can't offer her a good life. He can't buy her nice things. He can't take her places. He might not even be able to take her amongst people and places that might be influential to boost her ego, the fact that she's on your arm. So, yes, obviously, men have to have that. But the woman that I'm referring to, because as men, we will go through, especially in America, there are many women that we will go through, but there's usually one that we will choose. And in choosing that one, there's something in you that, besides the money, that you have to be able to have, that make her value you more than anything else. Because we see women today who are leaving billionaires, divorcing millionaires. So the money is not the issue. And women will go for hood dudes, or they will go for big D dudes, whatever it is, but they leave them nonetheless. But one of the things that always keep a woman is, can she break you? If she can break you, she will leave you. If she can't break you, she will struggle to find out how I can break you. You remember the story of Samson and Delilah, right? For
Yeah,
those who may have heard the
yeah, for
story
sure.
or read the story, her goal was to get him to give her his secret. What makes you such a strong man? Now, today, a man's strength may not be the physical strength to bring down a city, but he may have the economical strength to move cities or industries. So, what is the character behind that man that allow him to have that influence? And once she finds out who you are as a man, can she compromise you? Because they will test you to see if you are who you are. We all hear about a woman's shit test. The shit test is one thing. That's a whole different piece of a conversation. This is really to for a woman to know that forever she's got a man that is priceless. That even for her, He will not bend. He will not compromise. And if a woman find a man that she can't break, she will follow him because her life goal is to get him to surrender to her. All women want a man's love, but a man's love have to be metered. Hey, Cheeky, what's up, brother?
How you
Welcome
doing,
to the
sir?
Stage Talk.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all. I'm gonna
See
keep
you, sir.
listening.
All
Oh,
right.
okay, cool.
Appreciate it.
Yes, somebody did drop the quote I was looking for. Let me see if I could find it back again.
Uh, about the if a man
Uh,
believes nothing, he
yeah,
can fall into anything type deal.
right. Yeah, so somebody dropped it in the chat. Oh, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. That was the
Okay,
Most High or the Most High. Good looking out. Appreciate it.
got you, got you.
Okay, what's up, Cheeky? Talk to
How
me,
you
babe,
doing, sir?
brother.
Yeah. A lot of what you said is something that I've experienced for sure. You know, I've decided to live my life and with standards and with a let's see, just with a very intentful way, in an intentful manner, and it's caused me to lead both men and women. And a lot of what you're saying is true. I think, unfortunately, men today have simplified women, just because of experiences with them, and then women today have simplified men. But the thing about humanity is there's always a need for a spiritual. There's always an inward or a spiritual man that exists in them that is always being looked to be satisfied. So a lot of what you're saying is true, because I'm someone who doesn't necessarily partake in sexual acts. I've never had sex before, and that's intentionally. And
Right,
and for and there have been women that have tried and tempted me in that way. Um, and the moment you deny them, the more they want you. Like you were saying, there's that need to usurp some form of authority within them. And if you fit the mold of being of good character and a good leader who has morals and standards, that you're like you're saying, they will try to find a way to see if they can get you. And it's very weird, because when you call it out to them and when you tell them to their face, I see what you're doing, it's something that clicks, right?
right,
Something in their eyes click with what you just said, and then it switches from tempting you to following you. It's very weird. And the reason why it's weird is because when you're young, well, I'm young, like I'm
of
25, so I'm not
course.
old,
Yeah, yeah, you're
but
young.
yeah, I'm a young buck on the block, right?
Yeah,
But what I've experienced has taught me things that go beyond my years, just simply because of how I've decided to live my life. Um, and that's not to say like I think I'm just this wise guy, but more so, I've just noticed things. Women do test you, but that testing turns into followship, followership if you
right.
do it
Hmm.
correctly. And you know, once you do it, you can get them to do anything. It's up to you as a man of standards and a man of good moral character not to take advantage of that, right? And that's something that I've learned to do
Break
or
that
not to do.
down. Give some clarity to what you mean
Yeah,
by
for sure.
you as a man taking advantage.
Okay, so women, I believe, have a natural desire to want to submit, and women under the right leadership will submit, and women who find themselves in that position tend to want to give it all, right? And today's women, they've built up a defense mechanism of trying to act hard. I don't think they really are, because when you talk to them, they're hurt. When you're able to break down those walls and barriers, you tend to find out they're just a girl, right? They're just looking
Right,
for some a leader.
right,
But when you get that form of loyalty and intimacy from a woman, where she's exposing not just like the simple stuff like, oh yeah, this that, because there is levels to intimacy and exposure that they will give, and when they give it to you, you can literally mold and make them into whatever it is you think is right. Like, that's what I mean by that. But it's your job as that leader to have the moral and ethical belief system that keeps you from falling into temptation and leading them astray. All right. And that's what I mean by don't take advantage of that because it's easy to do.
Okay, so betraying the power that you have as a man.
Right.
And the thing is like being a Boy Scout when I was in the Boy Scouts and when I got up in business, I became a leader in both aspects. And as a young man or a young boy, I learned some basic things about leadership when I was in the Boy Scouts. And one of the things you learn that your team must trust you. And when you have the trust of others, it's something that's delicate. It's easy to betray trust
Mm-hmm.
if you're not mindful. And particularly with a woman, men today, I don't think most men are able to evaluate a good woman from a bad woman
Yeah. Um.
because most men look at a woman as the flesh,
Right.
particularly if she is attractive.
Right.
So most men have one objective. And
Yeah.
then past that, it really depends.
Right.
So if a woman then have some type of an attraction for that man and she's sticking with him, and if they form a relationship, some men sometimes will abuse the trust in the love of the relationship by not knowing what level of love or compassion that that woman have for
As
him,
yeah, for sure.
because we are so used to hearing the word love without any real substantive meaning that when we can't tell the difference between a woman who says it sincerely and a woman who is just saying it beguilingly.
Right.
So, as a defense, most men would take it as empty words. So, that is how sometimes we can betray the trust of a true woman that might open up herself to you. And by you not being learned in the nature of women,
Right.
particularly not having a father and uncles around you, or even older women who can either tell you that girl is a good girl, a nice girl, or that girl is a tramp. Don't have no babies with her. You know, back in the day, men used to be able to guide young men to provide them information as to a street girl versus a woman that is not a street girl. But today, that is something that is lost within our community. And most women portray themselves by the way they dress, speak, fashion, and move very similar to street girls.
Mm-hmm.
Women that may have pole dance, strip dance, work in those type of clubs, or that type of behavior, even you know, moonlighted on the porn industry for a time or whatever. So it's very difficult for a man to be able to distinguish between one woman and the next. So by and large, in default, treat them all the same and let the best figures, rise to the top if at some point, right? So I think that's how most men tend to deal with women today. They just, you know, the good one I will find her when she appear, but in the process, just treat them all like shit.
Right. Like run through them. And you
Run
know what?
through them exactly.
Right. And that's something that I've had to kind of address with, my male friends. Um, because we don't share the same lifestyle. It's rare to find a man who says he wants to keep his virginity, right? Or he wants to keep his
Right.
sacredness of himself. Simply because it's not valued amongst society, nor is it valued amongst most women until they realize that it translates in other ways, right? Um, but
Let me ask you, what
yeah,
what made you make that decision, and at what age did you come to that decision?
Uh, I came to that decision at 9. My dad had a conversation with me about sex and its true meaning. Right. My father is not the average man in the sense of his mindset or his approach to life, but he's average in the sense of income, things like that. Right.
Sure. Right.
So his perceptiveness, I'm not sure if that passes through DNA, but I'm perceptive as well. His perceptiveness of who I was as his child, he told me what sex was, that it's more than just a physical, intimacy that a man and woman experiences. He told me that sex is marriage. It doesn't equal, but it is. It's the equivalent to it. And he
Actually,
told
it
me,
is. It is marriage because before we celebrated the ceremonies of
hmm
marriage, the sex was marriage. And even in reality today, if you marry a woman and you die before you consummate
the marriage,
sex,
right?
the marriage is not a marriage.
It's not
It's an
right,
all.
right.
So
And,
everyone knows sex is marriage, but we live a different way.
right now, that was something that he taught me early on. He taught me the
Right.
spiritual, the things that are involved in sex, all the way to the spiritual level, both physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And because I understood it at an early age, I understood the importance and weight of it. So I decided I didn't want to involve myself in that way with somebody who
Okay.
I was committed to.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome choice. I tip my hat to you. Your dad is definitely have a unique wisdom uh, that separates him from many other men. And sometimes too, I think in society, as men and black men particularly, we have to set up our own metric on how we value each other. And not every man that have a lot of money is a man of substance and value, and not every man that is broke is without substance and value. So I think that's something as a metric we as men can reestablish for ourselves in our community, and how we as black men go forward to build, because we are in a unique position because everything was stripped and taken away from us, from our power and to
Mm.
all our choices within life. So as we move forward, we can rebuild and build anew the way we want it. Hi, Amber. Welcome to Sage Talk. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Mr. Lee?
Okay.
I mostly just have a question from a woman's standpoint. My first question is every black man should be considered a leader, even if it's just within the household?
Well, I would say this: every man was given the birthright of a leader. Does every man possess the abilities? Because leadership, there are two types of leaders. Some men have natural ability of leadership, and you can see it in them as boys.
Mm-hmm.
Some men must learn it and master the skills, particularly if they're going to rise in leadership in business. So I've seen that. I've seen that in business, and men who have been trained to develop themselves to become leaders over other men. Likewise, women who rise the ranks of corporate America, they go through very similar training. And that's why sometimes some women can have conflict with their husbands, because those leadership skills once learned, you can't just kind of chuck them to the side when you come home. And that's difficult. Uh, but for the question, yes, every man was was that is born is a leader, whether or not they develop the skills or whether or not they had natural ability is yet to be known. Some men never learn because of their upbringing. It's
Oh,
lacking.
so then my next question is the leadership tied to their purpose?
Say again?
Is their leadership tied to their purpose?
No. Leadership is not
Mm.
tied to your purpose. Leadership, if someone learns how to become a leader, if they don't pay for it themselves to self-develop themselves, like when I was a young man, I always had natural leadership skills from I was young, and that's probably because I'm a very independent thinker. I'm not a follower as a person. But when I was young, by the time I was 16, 17, I was paying for courses. I used to go to the learning annex, and I was training myself on how to think, how to perceive, how to analyze, how to make proper judgments, how to evaluate. And then when I got into business, as I grew in business, I was then trained in leadership abilities in business with a team. Uh, so a man can develop himself independently from his purpose in life. Sometimes those things do coexist together, because if you're on a self-development path, that path may uniquely lead you down a road that at some point there's an intersection between the man that you have developed yourself to be and the situation that presents itself. And then you just step into it. That's how
The,
those two things can collide or
Mm.
coexist.
the reason I asked if I can give you an example, I used to work for the one of the largest Black tech incubators here in Chicago, spearheaded by
Hmm.
a man. His story was he haphazardly grew this business because it was his brother's dream, but his brothers started having seizures. And he kept getting
Okay.
affected by a lot of white corporations. So he started his own tech incubator. He hired me as his media director. I helped them blow up on the scene. And he was the it guy. I mean, women were falling at his feet, but because I was his right hand man, I saw his lack of leadership skills. Like whenever anything happened, he literally would run out the back door. I'll even hear him say, "I don't want to do this. Like I didn't even want to do this." He ended up getting married. His wife took over the company, and it crashed and burned. And now he's somewhere in Utah, a house husband. And from the outside looking in, even though he got the success, the fame, the money, I think he even got a 500K grant from Google. He did not, that wasn't his, I guess, passion or his calling, and he let it crash and burn to the ground. And now he's just gone. And so as a woman on the outside looking in, it wasn't tied to what he wanted to do, but he was a leader in the
Well,
community. To be a Black in tech, he was a leader.
what it sounds like to me is that he had developed some skills in the tech field, but it sounds as though he was a charismatic person to influence people, and that catapulted his success. But there were some integral things that he lacked within himself. Like when I worked on Wall Street, when you had a bad day where the market was down six, seven, 800 points, brokers leave the office. They go to the bar. They told their secretary, I'm not taking no calls. And sometimes they won't take a call till the next day at the opening after they get a sense of the futures market and what conditions may look like. I was different. My big accounts, I would tell my assistant, get so and so on the phone. I preempted them. I would call them before they call me. I tell them, keep your powder dry. Don't panic. We're not going to panic sell. Let the market rebound, and then we'll evaluate, particularly if we're not in a trade. If we're in a trade, then we might have to cut the loss. But if we're in a blue chip stock that we're holding long term, we may use that as an opportunity to cost dollar average and bring our cost basis down and buy more at that point in time. But not every man can stand in the wind of a storm and stay straight. Some men will take cover and some men will run. That's why they say, and on the battlefield, that a man's true leadership ability is shown on the battlefield, where a corporal can become a leader and a captain can fold like a trooper, like a E2 or whatever those ratings are.
Yeah.
Hi, Kelly Coacher. How are you? Welcome to Sage Talk.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. Go ahead.
Um,
You have a question
so I
or
do have
comment?
a question. Well, I have a little bit of both. I was listening to you and I had to call in because um, very few men that I've met in my life talk the way that you do. My father was one of them, and a few gentlemen in my life that are older, but not a lot of gentlemen my age speak the way that you do. So when you were talking, I'm like thinking, where are these men that he's talking about? Because I don't really see them. Um, I don't, and and it's not like I'm not out there. Like I go out, I travel, I am a businesswoman. I meet different people all the time, but like that character within. And I wanted to tell you two things. I've been in two serious relationships in my life, and both of them exhibited the leadership skills of that you were talking about, but one of them, it teetered over into a controlling aspect. So I guess my question for you is how to decipher between when a man is a true leader versus when he is being controlling.
Okay. Control is something that I think is linked directly for a man with his ego, because the lack of it can be like someone is testing him. And most men, particularly successful leader type personalities, don't like to be questioned. So, how control is metered out by some men are heavy handed, they're brutish, they're rough around the edges. Some men are French, like the French say, suave, debonair, sophisticated, polished, where they can talk you out of your panties, for a lack of a better expression. But they will be so smooth in the way in which they communicate to you that you would be willing to do something, even though your second mind might tell you, I'm not sure about this. So there are different type of ways in which men can express their controlling behavior, particularly with women and with relationships. Which would you say the one that you had a problem with expressed?
He was more of the brutish one. My father didn't like him. He called him a Neanderthal. He was like,
Yikes. That's crazy.
very like. Needless to say,
Okay.
that
That's
one didn't
crazy.
work out. But yeah, he was
How
definitely
long were
the
you guys
brutish
in a
one.
relationship, if I could ask?
4 years.
And was that the latter of the two or the first of the two?
That was the first. I was young.
Okay, you were in your 20s?
I was, yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Well, was he similar in age to you?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Many young men are somewhat brutish in their youth. That's what, you know, if you watch animals, dogs, particularly male dogs, they're very brutish, particularly the aggressive breeds. And men, and I would say black men, we tend to exert our dominance through some form of control mechanism through brutish behavior, either by posture and attitude or in the way in which we talk or demand. And I had some of that, even me, I had some of that when I was young. I was, my voice used to be more deeper when I was young. So I had a very deep voice when I spoke. And my wife, particularly for whatever reason, she was one of the only women that I have known that could get under my skin to get me to lose my composure. And there were times when I yelled, and I'm not a person that really like to yell. I have a
Mhm.
very calm demeanor. Uh, and she would get me upset. And there were times when I felt as though the only way I can put her in check was to exert my power over her. And part of that had to do with my overpowering voice, using my intellect and my persuasiveness in speech to just bring her into submission because of whatever our disagreement was at the time. So I would
Mhm.
say that may have been chalked up to his
His
youth. I
age.
don't know if you
Okay.
guys are still in communication to know it differently at this time,
Mhm.
but uh, I would say that's something that probably come with youth. A more sophisticated way of massaging the consciousness of people and to get people to do things for you or do things that you would want them to do in a less aggressive way. I think that comes through experience.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, because the other gentleman, he was much older than me, but
Okay.
there was nothing I wouldn't do for him because he didn't he didn't try to pull or push me. He it was like he was the leader and I just followed because he exuded those leadership qualities and I couldn't even question it because usually he was right. And if I did have a question or concern, he would hear me out. Even if he took authority, I understood why and I respected it. So, but there's just
And
not very many men I've met like him.
well, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation today as well is because I still hear murmurings in the manosphere with regard to both men and women going back and forth. Men saying, well, if he's worthy of following, I will follow him. And the man says, well, if you let me lead, I will lead. And that
Mm-hmm.
conversation tends to get bounced back and forth from
Yeah.
time to
Mm-hmm.
time. And I
Yeah,
think
it does.
uh, as Black men, particularly, us coming into our own as men now, particularly those who are finding their financial footing in society and looking for a woman that you can build within a relationship. I think obviously having the financial success and the necessities of society to be able to fulfill the course of life in which you are traveling. But I think also that what I see in our society, when we look back on the Jada Pinkett and Will Smith fiasco that have been going on for the past, well, that blew up this past couple of weeks, but even further back, that so many men have compromised themselves so much in relationships and are tried to tiptoe around women who are more self-assured in what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And men sometimes try to, for whatever reason, how can I say, make themselves heal the wounds of a woman by trying so hard to please. And I think as a man, you need to say, this is what is acceptable for me. These things cross my boundaries. And obviously, you have to bring it to the woman's attention that's in your life when she
Mm-hmm.
crosses a boundary or coming up on those boundaries, whether that's in disrespect and verbal communication, outward behavior. Women can display themselves in many ways in which they try to challenge and push back on some men. And you have to be able as a man to deal with that, but at the same time let the woman know that if this behavior continues, there will be consequences and what some of those consequences could be. Obviously, I'm not talking about violence, but if this is not your wife, and I hope that before you would choose a woman to be your wife, that's why I believe a man should test his wife. The woman that he planned to choose to become a wife, his wife, he should test her, especially if you're a wealthy man or have a six-figure man, high six-figure going into seven-figure. Bring her around your rich friends. Put her in
Mm.
compromising places so you can see how she move. You
Oh,
have to have one or two trusted men in your network that got your back, that won't cross you. That's why one of the three things I mentioned was never betray the trust of a friend, and the three things that a man should have as part of his principles. Because if you have friends like that, you can prove a woman, especially a woman that's in your presence just to get ahead or just to use you as a springboard for the next guy. So that's
Mr.
what I
Lee,
would say with regard to that. Yeah,
would you mind if I asked a couple questions to Kelly? Because I was listening to her. I just
sure. Go ahead. Absolutely. The
yeah.
panel is
So
open.
Hi,
okay, cool.
is it cheeky banter?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So
Are you the one that's 25?
yes, I am.
I was listening to you. I have a lot of respect for you because you're upholding a standard that not many men are willing to do these days. So
Again,
respect.
I want to share that that standing with my father. Again, a lot of young men today don't have fathers too, for whatever the reason may be. So that's also another part. Like I'm willing to acknowledge the privilege of having a father, and that's the bigger end of it. Even though I'm perceptive, having that guidance
Mhm.
definitely helped. But for my question for you, speaking of fathers, was you were saying your father
Mhm.
um, said that your first partner was brutish. What did you listen to him before you got involved with him for the 4 years,
I
or?
did not. I did not listen to him. I was I was very young. I was very
Okay,
young, and you're rebellious at that age, and you're like,
got you.
I'm gonna prove you wrong, Dad, and
Right,
I
right,
didn't.
right.
But moving forward, I always asked my father about any guy I was gonna potentially date.
Hmm.
After that point, I was like, Dad, what do you think of this guy? No, I need you to look at him. I need you to meet him. Okay, you don't like him, and it's no for me because he is a proven, well, he recently passed, but
Mm.
he was a proven ally in my life. Like, he wanted the best for me, so he was never going to tell me something that wasn't going to be point me in the right direction. So I trusted him. I didn't at that time, and I regretted it, but I from moving forward from that point, I did.
Okay, and
But wisdom, you live and you learn. I wish I would have
right,
taken it then.
and I think that's key, especially with understanding the relationship between genders. I think both sides are very unforgiving and ungraceful to one another. But that's something, again, maturity in life, heals wounds and all those things so that you're allowed to do it again. The second question that I have is, the second person that you dated, he sounds like a good guy, but what was the issue? Was it him? What he
No,
was he lacking, or were you lacking?
I know everybody wants
neither.
to know why didn't it work
No,
out.
neither. Okay,
Me
so
neither. He
so
was
neither.
he was wonderful. I have nothing negative to say about him. We were
Gotcha.
actually engaged. We were supposed to get married last year, but personal. I'm not gonna try to tear up.
Okay,
But a
that's
month
yeah.
before our wedding, his son passed away, and he just was, not the same after that. He needed time. So
Time.
I
Okay.
said we're still friends.
Right.
I still call and check on him. I'm still there for him if he needs me. But a relationship is not something he wanted to pursue at that time. He needed to heal. So yeah,
And that makes sense.
it
Right.
does. You try
And
to
I
make me
mean,
I would.
cry.
no, it's just like, you're attractive, and you
Thank
have a
you.
pleasant personality. So certain things, that I've noticed with attractive women that have pleasant personalities is like, what's the problem, right? You seem to have
Mhm,
had a guidance to help and vet,
mhm,
right? So unfortunately, he's passed. Hopefully, you have
mhm.
another. Do you have another?
He actually placed, because I'm one of four daughters. He placed
Oh,
us
okay.
in my godfather's care. But he was very sound in his wisdom and knowledge. So he left us with a lot of uh, nuggets of wisdom. So that hopefully we carry on and pass to our children. So
Okay. Well, yeah, that was my two questions. I was trying to figure out, put pieces together. I'm like, the puzzle is cool and all, but
no,
it ain't nothing if it's all broken up.
Well,
no, no,
before
no.
I
He
leave,
was like, I have nothing negative to say. So I'm sorry,
Okay.
well,
Amber.
before I get
Okay.
off, I just actually want to piggyback, ask Mr. Lee a question, which piggies back to, Kelly's experience of going to her father to vet, a mate, to what you saying about trusting your friends, Mr. Lee. I was told by a mentor that you don't gauge a man of how he is around other women. You watch how he is around other men, specifically how he is around other high value men. Like, pay attention to his body language if his fellow colleagues respect him. Is that correct, Mr. Lee?
Well, that is true. However, where will you get to observe that
Okay.
as a woman? I mean, unless you're already in a relationship with him
Mm-hmm.
and he has a function, maybe a barbecue or function at the house where you guys are living together, or if you're not living together yet, you're invited and his friends come over with their significant other, and you guys are having an in-house celebration of some sort, and you can kind of gauge him. But men behave differently when their women are around than when they're by themselves. So the only way I think you can get an insight into that would be if you have brothers or your dad where he can spend time with the men in your family and they can give you some kind of report about this individual. That's where you're most likely to see it. Uh, in today's social construct, women and men do socialize together. So it's not unlikely that you probably wouldn't be someplace where he is amongst maybe his colleagues that he worked with. And you may get a chance to see how he moves in that situation. But the problem with that is because if he's a subordinate, he's got limitations on how he can move. If he's a boss, then obviously you will be able to see how he treats those lesser than himself. I think a true gauge would be more like when he takes you out to dinner or when you go places. The people that are the valet that parks the car, how does he treat the valet that parks the car? How does he treat the waiter, male or female, that brings his food? Or doesn't observe him when he's trying to get their attention for something that you might need while you guys are having dinner? How he treats subordinates, people that have less power than himself. Is he brutish? Is he the type of person that disrespect people off the top? How does he treat women? Not you, but other women that he may not be in any particular relationship with or potentially don't have any interest in. Because women that a man don't have any interest in is very key, because he has no reason to be nice other than if he's a nice person.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
That's,
thank you all. Thank you for having me. I'm gonna get out of here.
Sure, not a
yeah.
problem. Okay, likewise.
See
Do
you,
you have
Amber.
anything else you'd might like to engage in this conversation? How would you like me to refer to you, Kelly? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
Kelly's perfect. I'm sorry. I know that this is a man show. I wasn't supposed to call in, but I just
Not a
I had
problem.
my
Not a problem.
questions.
All right.
It was a
Thank you for
pleasure.
coming up. Sure. Thank you for
Absolutely.
coming up.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Very good. Okay. I saw Aaron had dropped the question or made a statement a little while ago. I was unclear what he meant. JR, if you have that statement that Aaron dropped a little while ago, I'm trying to see if I can pull it up, if I see it again. Okay, I can't see it at this point. Yeah, okay, he says, what if the damage was too much to overcome? So, Aaron, you might need to be a little clearer about what you mean by that. The damage from the man or the damage from the woman perspective? What are you referring to? If the woman have too much emotional damage for you to overcome, don't deal with her. That's what I would say. You're not a psychotherapist, you're not a doctor, and understand that if you take on the work of fixing somebody after they're fixed, you
What's
might no longer be their attraction.
all right?
So just be mindful of that. So if you're going to play doctor, realize that that patient will move on when you're done. And if you
Mi-
don't have a problem with that, you know, because of whatever she might bring to the table that you might enjoy taking pleasure in for that moment, knock yourself out.
Oh, Mr. Lee, I got a question about that specific topic. I find myself in that position many times, just because I've come to the conclusion that this understanding people just in a very general sense has caused them to come to me for aid and help, and me in return not get as much from them as they do from me. That's not necessarily a problem. I understand everyone has a
Okay.
role, but how do you ensure that um that you don't get taken advantage of, right? From my understanding, you're an Israelite, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And even within the tribe, there were people who helped others, maybe with the intent to glorify Yah instead of themselves. How do you distinguish being abused versus just fulfilling your purpose?
Okay. Well, I think first you have to really know yourself,
Okay,
what kind
that's a
of
good one.
person you are. And you have to set boundaries to yourself, and you have to understand how energies work. You know, if you're a giver, how do you replenish your energies if you're always giving? So you have to understand that, because some people may not know that they're taking from you because they're just coming to you for advice or info. They're not asking you for money, so they
All
don't
right,
might not think it's anything, right?
all right,
And particularly if it's a friend or family, they may think it's a duty because you're in the family or whatever.
true enough.
So I think it's for you to measure for your own health, emotional and mental, how much and how often you want to give, and where are your sources to replenish. Where are the people where you can go that you can talk to unload all the complicated negative stuff that people bring to you, and you have to filter and give them valuable, decisive information on how they can solve whatever it is that they're having a complication with. So I would say that's the first thing. The thing is, you have to realize some people are just users.
Right.
Some people will take and take and take and take. And you have to be able to give people the arm distance, pushback every so often. Say, hey, you know what? I'm busy right now. I'll get back to you when I get a chance. I'll holler back at you. So you have to let people know sometimes that, you don't have time for them at this moment,
Okay.
right? So people just don't overstep their bounds and abuse your generosity for whatever that might be,
Right.
right?
Right.
And you're young, so that will come with time as you grow. But you have to be mindful of that, and you have to come from the perspective that what's best for you, right? So you know how to deal with that. That's how I would,
Understand. Yeah.
yeah. Mhm. So do you find yourself as an advisor to many? And are
Um.
these women?
Well, not anymore because I'm not in a setting where I'm just full with women.
Okay,
Like in
right.
college. So
Okay.
in college, most definitely. I
Oh,
was
they
in.
just come to you for the answers because you're smart?
They came to me for the answers because I was genuine, right, and because I couldn't necessarily. I'm good at reading people, but I wasn't the best at reading when people liked me, right, and that was a problem that um I had when it came to women. Sometimes I've never necessarily approached a woman like as far as for a relationship, but
Right.
they've and I
They've
and I
approached you.
right, and I understand that's out of their character and nature, which let me know it took they've thought about it and felt this for a while, right? And so
Okay.
a lot of those times I was helping them, not realizing that I was building a relationship or a connection with them, but it wasn't reciprocated in that same manner. Um,
And you did it in a way where you weren't hurtful.
yeah, no, I was just honestly being a help to both men and women. So it extends
Right.
beyond. I was a servant
Right.
leader. That's literally what I was. I was a servant
Yeah.
leader to the people
Well,
around me.
I would say this, particularly when you're dealing with women who are attracted to you and like you and make it known. And if a woman don't tell you outright, they'll make it known by what they do for you or are
Right,
willing to do for you,
right.
particularly at any time. When a woman find themselves when you find that a woman is available to you anytime, you got to nip that in the bud if this not what you want,
That
because it can
and
become problematic and you can hurt her because she may
yeah,
believe what it is that she's doing, and you might lead her on.
right. Fortunately for me, um, I would catch on, right, before it got too. And this is what I mean by not taking advantage. This is exactly what I meant because I've done
Right,
it. I did it one time by
right,
accident because um again when you're not aware of how emotionally connected a woman is to you and you're just being a helpful person, it can go over your head. And once that happens, you can really hurt her in a way that was not intended and not as bad as, somebody else hurting her. But regardless of that, I had a conversation with somebody like that maybe 3 4 years ago, and she told me like I liked you, and I was like, how I didn't know that. You didn't say it. I'm not going off of I don't and me personally, I never thought about when like you're not women within the realms of my goal didn't correlate because women for the most part
right. You didn't interact with women in that
for the
way,
intent,
so
yeah,
the
right, for the
signs,
intent,
right?
yeah,
So the signs was not
they just
something
went
you
over
were
the head,
used to seeing, right? They went over your head.
right?
I will say this, and this might rub some women the wrong way. I would say this as a man, sometimes men have to know their own strength. And I
Yeah,
think it's important as a man that, you know, if a woman come on to you and you might like her, but maybe you don't know where it will go, or you're not sure if you want to engage in a relationship, I would say at least test her to see what she will do. because most men gain their experience through dealing with other women to be able to hopefully pick a good wife. But because you're not dealing sexually with women, you don't know the emotional dynamics of how women can play. But you might know the interpersonal uh, dynamics on how a woman will relate with you when they're attracted to you. But I think that you should entertain that dance from time to time with specific women, so at least you understand the dynamics of it, because it will help you at some point when you choose a woman to at least know what to look for
Well,
better in the quality of a woman.
well, it was funny is I'm currently dating somebody, so I again I was aware
Oh, you're
of the
dating someone.
yeah I was aware.
Oh,
Well,
perfect.
courting
Okay, cool.
is the best way to put it,
Courting.
because I don't
Okay,
really
cool.
believe in dating in the terms of
Right.
today's society,
Yeah.
but that's exactly. But again, those interactions with those women and those constant conversations, like I just personally, I've always enjoyed being around beautiful women simply because they look good, right? And it's nothing. I didn't need
We don't
anything.
like it.
Right, like I didn't even think past that, right? Because I've already made
Right.
up in my mind. I'm not. I'm not going to have sex with you. So, for me, a lot of the times I would find myself in the position where I didn't think women were necessary because, on a very individual level, I was very in tune with who I was as a person spiritually and inwardly, just in whole, emotions and all, mentally, all those things. And I knew that women provided some form of guidance slash clarity to men if they played their role right. But I didn't need it because I was fine.
Question. You said something that triggered my antenna. You
Yep.
said you didn't believe women were necessary.
Right.
Define necessary.
So for example, when I was in school, I would go do my homework, study, go to the study hall for 8
What
hours.
age range was this? Just give me an
Ooh,
idea so I know.
20.
Okay, cool. 20 and
So
up.
19 to 21, I would say
Okay.
right
All
there,
right.
that
Okay,
age
cool.
range.
All right.
And
So
yeah.
take me through that again. The necessity because you did your own homework. What else?
Well, and spiritually, like, and mentally and emotionally, I'm very introspective. So I
Okay.
didn't need to really have conversation with too many people. I had my dad. If I needed, hey, I needed to work through something, I talked to him. I wouldn't talk to a woman. Didn't trust that. Um, I didn't need. I enjoy being by myself. Like I didn't need someone to
Okay.
entertain me.
You were
So
comfortable.
right. So in every aspect of my life, I didn't understand why women were necessary to me.
Okay.
Besides having something to look at and enjoying just a company of a woman. But outside of that, that was pretty much it.
What role did your mother play in your life, if I might ask?
Um,
Overall, growing
growing
up.
up, the role that my mom played, she was nurturing, warm, and the counter to my father. Not in every way, but in the ways that I think
So she
mattered
was a mother.
on an
She was a
emotional
mother
level.
in the
Right.
sense of how a mother would interact with her child.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you have balance
Oh
because
no, for sure.
the word necessary, I was trying to quantify that more because the
Right.
things you said didn't really explain necessary. It showed that one, you have a good sense of self and you were still youthful that besides your chores, responsibilities as a student and your friends, you were
Well,
comfortable.
and another thing too, I think I should add this as a caveat.
Be careful what you say though. This is the internet, so
I
be
understand.
careful what you say.
I had to, but leading women was more difficult than leading men because of the amount
Believing,
leading women was more
leading,
difficult.
Leading.
Yes, was more
Okay,
difficult
cool.
than leading men simply because of
Uh-huh.
the how much emotional stamina you need. Um, and so that I found that very draining. And I understood that if I was going to date somebody, that was going to be a constant thing that I had to deal with.
Manage. Yeah.
Right. And
Mhm.
so when I say necessary, like it wouldn't have been necessary for me as an individual to
Okay, got it.
be
Got it. Got it.
committed to something like that,
Right.
knowing that I lead many women and many men. So
Got
it's
it.
like I'm drained already. What makes you think I
Right.
want a girlfriend?
Right. Right. Right.
I can't even
Right.
have sex. What's the
Because
like?
a
What are we
woman in your
doing?
life as a girlfriend was not even something on your radar. There was no real reason, they
R-
didn't have
r-
a necessary role in your life besides that.
and
Perfect. I
mind
got
you,
that.
we're 19 to 21. Like let's put that in
Right.
perspective of the emotional
Sure.
neediness of a 19,
Right.
21-year-old. Come on, man. That's no.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, the thing is that talking with you is enlightening because most black men lead or live their life through the lower head of their body, and the upper head of their body really has no function, very little function. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or its function is to please the little head. That's the
Right.
primary function.
Right.
And you make a distinction between both, and you lead and you think from your mind.
Right.
So that's refreshing to meet you as a man in that way, especially in the time in which we live. And I know you will traverse this your life in a very determined way. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation too about leadership is because as black men, I think we need to start setting up some interior core development as to who we are. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times the things that we use to define us is the trappings of life. If you're making six figures or more, if you're making, if you're have a successful career in whatever, if you have the bling bling and you're driving a nice car or whatever, people see you as you on your purpose, you on your game, you're successful. Nobody can tell you nothing.
Right.
But there are times when men have all of those things, but internally is who they are is an empty shell.
Right.
And usually we don't find out until they crash and burn at some point. And then we look on as bystanders, and then we do the what if. If that was me, I would have done this. If that
Right.
was me, how could he be such like we're doing with Will
But
Smith,
will.
right?
Yeah.
And his situation. That's a brother with all the outward successes that he have. Inwardly, he's somewhat like an empty shell because the man he need to be for him, probably because of the father he didn't have or the father he interpreted was the father to his mother, him trying not to be that man has made him become not even a man. Because a
Yeah.
woman now, because the woman that he's with have no boundaries. And when you bind yourself to a woman with no boundaries, to which they would sacrifice you or see you as disposable or usable, I mean, that is the worst place to put yourself. And I think he have allowed himself to be there because he don't want to be the man his mother had as a husband, which is
Hmm.
his father. But I think it's unfortunate because many of the things that he's judging his father by is through his eyes as a son and not through his eyes as
Right.
a mate. And I think as children sometimes we confuse the two. We assume that the way a man is with his wife
Is the
is the
way he's
same
yeah.
as being a father, and it's not. He's in a relationship with a woman, and you don't know. You see the outward effects of what he do. You don't see the unhidden hand of what she may do
Mm.
to cause a man to behave in a certain way. Because just like how he went up on stage and slapped another man, where we're looking at it as without cause. How can a man do that? But he is reacting to something else where he's being prompted. But he's not taking out his actions on her, nor is he taking out his actions on his children. He's taking it out on a stranger. So has he become the very man his father was, though he's not practicing it on his mother? but he's
Right.
practicing it outwardly on others.
Right.
So that's a whole different psychology and an analysis there.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is sometimes as men, we try running away from certain things
And
and we
becoming it.
run smack dead into it. So I think hopefully the place he's checked himself into is not for show
Right.
and that he finds the help that can help him rebalance himself and stabilize his life. Yeah.
Mr. Lee, there's a clip actually that not surfacing, but is making its rounds amongst like a lot of YouTubers, where this woman is saying she wouldn't ask for the help of her baby daddy, um,
She wouldn't ask for what?
the help of her baby's father,
Okay.
right? And then
You mean
when
financial help or what kind of help?
just any help, she said she would
Okay.
die before asking for the help of him.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then she goes into the description of who the man is, and
Right.
basically his character. He sounds like a good father, but a bad partner. It kind of touches on exactly what you spoke on about, how we tend to correlate the way that a man treats his woman with the way he treats his children, and it's not, and that's not always the case. And I think if you see that clip, what you just said would definitely would make sense and connect dots on that level, because we found that to be the
Well,
case a lot.
that's funny. I haven't seen the clip, but one thing I would say is why would a woman who would want nothing from a man lay down and have children with the man she wants nothing from? So the question is not the man. The question for me is what's up with you as a woman?
Very good question. I'm not a woman.
Now, it could quite frankly be that he has the physical aesthetics that she wants her children to have, and that
Right.
might be totally it.
Right.
I don't know, but women make decisions for why they would have a child with a man, and night after night, I hear them say on Kevin Samuel's show that he is a terrible person. She knew she never wanted to be with him. Some women are pregnant with the man's child and left the man and don't want him and looking for a stepdaddy to come in and get into a relationship with, which is like,
Mind-boggling.
what type of woman would do that? That's someone that's like a car going down the highway out of control with a full tank of gas.
Mm,
It's going to be running a long while before it hits something, but when it does, it's
it's
going to be
bad.
big, you know. And a lot of us, both black men and black women, are living life in such an out of control way.
Mm,
And the only time, anything is done is either, you know, at the end of some destructive behavior. You have 3 or 4 children, and at some point your life come to head on with something else, and now you need some kind of help. And usually you say how bad the man was. Okay, granted, he was a bad man. Why did you have kids with a man that you know was a bad
it's a
man?
bad man.
So, then for some reason, women have find it difficult to make those self evaluations when they're in the moment with that person. Because when they're in the moment with that person, supposedly he was good enough then, but at some point later, he became not. But for me and Sage Talk, what I really want to do is help men to become better, to think more about our choices, because life today have a lot of risk, have a lot of financial risk, and a lot of freedom risk in terms of going to jail or even getting killed, going up to defend a woman because women want men to defend them, and it looks like they want men to do it in the physical way. If you hurt their feelings or whatever.
Right.
So I want men to really kind of start to build themselves from the inside out, because we have had, the cards of life have been dealt to us where we had no choice but to build our life from the outward in, where we don't have fathers, most of us, like yourself, who can instill
Right.
certain ethics, a moral compass, and some principles that guide us on how we can live as young boys going into manhood, that by the time they become your age, 25 or older, we have a certain foundation within us already.
Right.
A lot of men are just making money and then using the money and the leverage money give them to randomly make choices and do things. And
Right.
usually that ends up in a crash somewhere with
Absolutely.
some women, and we see so many men who should be in their middle age, 35, 40, 45, 50, that would have wealth, have a good family, have good women around them, wife, children, are losing it all through divorce or some other means.
Mm.
I see the brother Anthony, I don't remember his last name. His wife filed
Anthony,
for divorce.
yeah, I know you're talking about
His wife filed for divorce the second time,
Anderson.
and now she's taking him for whatever she can get. And the thing is, it's like so many of our sisters say that black men are not building anything, but how can you build anything is halfway through the construction, you rip the building apart and say, give me my share, I'm going this way. How are we going to have the next generation of black men and black women compete against Asian women, Asian men, white women, Arab men, Arab women, who are having children, and their children are being set up for life with business, degrees, and bank accounts and trust funds to be able to have a foundation when they're 25 years old. They know if I graduate with a master's degree, I'm going to get an extra $250,000 from my dad trust. That's going to put me in a position to either start a business or go to a good law firm where I can, you know, become partner within 5 to 6 years by the time I'm 30, 32 years old,
Right.
and have my own practice by the time I'm 40 and I'm running a multi-million dollar corporation or firm business. And again, by 2020, by 2030, 2040, the next generations of young black men and women will be starting from scratch with nothing, with mothers who have taken a lot from the fathers, have spent it and lived their life, and the fathers who may or may not be able to rebound. And because many times when our families break apart, the children, we lose them and we lose touch with them. We have nothing to really give our kids because we don't know our kids. They don't have any foundation that we instilled in them that we find worthwhile to want to give to them. So,
Right.
I mean, unless we become rich enough where we can leave our money to institutions that can bear our name, what choices are many black men
Left for it.
having to consider 20, 25 years from now when they're in their late 50s, early 60s, and they're heading out to the pasture in life and they're ready to leave behind whatever they're building or have built. So, I want to have these conversations because I want us as men to really look at what we're doing and chart our course well. And hopefully for the sisters that are, checking into Sage Talk, whether they're mothers who are raising daughters or sons, or whether they're young women who are in the early ages of life, 25 to 30, and they're looking to choose a man that they walk more circumspectly within themselves so they don't burn themselves out and destroy their youth, so they're able to find a good man.
All right. Well, I have to go, Miss Lee. It
Not
was
a problem.
it was nice talking
Hey,
with you.
Aaron, if you want to come on up, I'd like to have a conversation. I see you dropped a couple of significant points. If you want to come and verbalize them, I would love to hear more what you have to say,
All right, you guys be
or
safe.
any of the other brothers who might have something they want to contribute. Thanks a lot, Cheeky, and thanks for coming up this time. Sorry about last week. Hey, Practical, what's going on, brother?
How you doing? How you doing, sir?
Okay, well, doing well.
That's great. That's great.
Talk to me.
All right. So, you know what I'm saying? As always, you know what I'm saying? Like, great show. You know what I'm saying? I've been tuned in and whatnot after my classes and whatnot. And I'm happy that the Lapeef Network is here. I'm gonna keep saying that every single time I get on there, whenever I think about it. But on the topic, right? Is it should it be male leadership or women followership, right? I know a lot of people will probably want to
Well,
cop out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
some people might want to do what?
I know that some people might want to like try to cop out and be all like, oh, it's both. And the reason why I say cop out is because it doesn't lead to an effective like solution, right? If we say something like that, right? It's kind of obvious that it's
Okay.
both, right? So knowing that it's obvious, I would say that it's leadership. It's male leadership. Because if when men put their foot down and when men have focus and they're doing their stuff and doing what they need to be doing, women will follow. I don't see how it won't work like that way. So
You're absolutely right. I mean, and that's part of men taking responsibility for a lot. And
yes,
the
sir.
more we come into our manhood as men, we will take on the responsibility of our own lives and the lives of those within our community as well. Because women by nature are made to be subservient to men.
Facts.
We have a unique experiment in Black America where our Black women have had the reins of some sort of uh, contrived power position of rulership or leading for some time, that there's a confusion within the Black dynamics. And I chose the word fellowship because it was a play on the religious term fellowship. But I wanted, because
Mm,
women are supposed to follow. But
right.
what I find that I hear most of the times is that women say, well, if the man know how to lead, I will follow. And then some men will say, well, if you let me lead, I will follow. I will lead, right? So what I'm trying to really delve into is, how do men develop themselves to be good leaders or great leaders? Some men may have a natural ability to command respect and lead. Some men would have to teach themselves or get training to learn how to lead, whether it be initially through business or particularly through self-development, whatever your path might be. But once a man takes hold of the mantle of leadership and take leadership over one, himself first, because if a man cannot lead himself, he can't lead no one. And it will find it very difficult for whether it be women or even kids to follow you. So once you take leadership over yourself, women will buck, particularly our women. They will buck for a time. But
A little while.
once you stay the course, if it's your woman in your life, they will follow you. If they, for whatever reason, are unable to follow a man's leadership from whatever brokenness they have come from, then they will find a way where they leave. But that has nothing to do with you. You're still a
Yes,
leader
sir.
and you're still
Indeed.
good at it. They were just unable to submit themselves. And they will find that as a problem throughout life. They probably had that problem with their father, bosses, friendships, and definitely in relationships. So it's not unique to the man. It's a situation that's inert in them that they need to overcome themselves. Hey, Mandra, long time no see, brother.
How
Welcome
you
back
doing,
to
Mr.
Sage
Lee?
Talk.
Thank
How are
you.
you?
Thank you for having me. I'm well. How about
Okay,
yourself?
I'm good.
Great. I came here to ask you a question because I do a lot of watching for the most part on YouTube and in private life. For instance, I got a call today, and the question to me was, "What's going on out there?" You know, and it's in reference to the fact that my question is, how do we take boys, teach them to be men at a young age or as an adulthood when they don't listen? Because I'm of the mind where the machine's going to keep on moving. The mission's going to get done regardless, with or without you. You either come along and learn, or you take your stop wherever and catch up when you're ready. But I'm being
Okay.
told by a lot of people
Uh,
that that's the wrong approach. I should be more soft. My response was, soft is what's got us here. Everybody wants to
well,
carry, but nobody wants to stick.
lack of leadership is what got us here. Not even saw. But what I would say to your question is, are you talking from a community standpoint, from an area in which you work responsibly, or something that you want to take hold of and try to see if you can direct and lead in a certain way to get a particular outcome? And are you referring to young boys, let's say under the age of 12 or over the age of 12?
Well, first, both, because the question that I got in the phone call was from a buddy of mine from the Army, because
Okay,
you know about my previous profession, and
sure.
that in that profession, you are selected. You try out, they run you through hell for 2 weeks, and at the end of it, if you make it, at the end of the 2 weeks, they handpick you. You're selected. The problem
Right.
is they can't select. You know what I mean? So that's why I got to call. It's to the point where they're calling, veterans are like, "Hey, what's going on out there, man?" Just to get an idea of what they're dealing with and why they're getting so many people who just can't meet the standard. And
What standard are you referring to? You're talking about the military, or you're
it's in
talking
the
about these
yeah
kids?
in the Army. There's
Right.
yes, I'm
Okay,
talking about
that
that. Yeah,
okay, that okay.
and that brought me that kind of made the light bulb come on. I'm like, well,
Okay.
good grief, you know what I mean? If it's that bad, he's like, yeah, man, it's that bad. We can't select. They've gone through several cycles where it's like, okay, nobody. Several cycles, selection cycles,
Wow.
nobody.
And that's
So
across all ethnicities or
yeah,
specific?
all of them.
Okay, all okay. So that's a societal issue
Mm-hmm.
in the past generation that have grown up now in their early 20s. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you got
Well,
people who are in their early 30s. They're just pretty much grown up babies from my
yeah,
perspective, and
yeah.
these guys who are married with children, and I'm just like, what's that household like? You know what I mean? I'm just like meeting this guy. I'm
Well,
like,
I think leaders present themselves for the time in which we live.
mhm.
That's what I would say. Particularly if you're dealing with young boys, I would say 13 or less. You need to make sure when you're interacting with them, whatever standard you have for yourself, you don't deviate. I was a teacher for almost a decade. I taught English, world history, introduction to economics, and sociology. And I had students from 7th grade to 11th grade. Here in Central America, you're a senior at 11th grade. One of the things that my students always tried to do, like particularly in my first year or two, they always wanted to push me over the edge, test me, get me pissed off. I had one of the smartest students, a female, said to me in my second year, "We didn't do much of your work because we didn't think you were going to be here anyway." So kids are always evaluating you, whether you know it or not. Kids are testing you, approving you to see if you meet their standard. So it's important that you, as an individual, a man particularly, if you are in any leadership way interacting with young people, that you have a standard and you stick to your standard.
It's like
One
how
of the things I'm good at was that I read everything, particularly being an English teacher. So because of that, my first semester, I let the students more or less did what they wanted to do without misbehaving. But then, because I read everything, I knew who did the original, I knew who copied, and I know who were doing in between copying and part of their own work. So the next semester, I went to the director and I submitted to her a 1-page, 20-point rules for my class, how to submit an assignment and how it will be graded and what you would lose points for. They approved it. I made copies. They had to copy it and put it in their workbook or notebook, and their parents had to sign off on it as well. The first 2 weeks was an uproar in my second semester. What do I mean? That same student who told me in the second year about her old issue, her mother was also a teacher. And she was one of the smartest kids I've ever had. But she used to do all the homework, the assignments. And because she had cousins in the class and close friends that they came up with from kindergarten, they all used to copy her work. So my rule was, if I find any copy work, everybody gets a 0. The original and the copies. The first time that happened, parents came to the school. I had to meet with them in the director's office. I pulled out the assignments. I said, this is the original. These are the copies. This is my rule. The parents looked at it. They said, okay, Mr. Lee. I never had the problem again.
Right. It's the same
I never had
thing.
the problem again. You know
Right,
why?
no doubt.
You know why the problem was solved? Because the parent of the A student told her child, you cannot get another 0. That's going to mess up your grade point average.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fix the B student, the C student, the D student. Fix the A student. Your problem is solved. If they can't copy from her, they can't copy. They got to do the work.
They got to do the work themselves.
Period.
Right.
So that was how I dealt with one of those situations. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're interacting with any type of social, recreational way with young people, you need to win them over. And you win them over in different ways. Sometimes it could be buying one kid a soda, buying them something to eat, depending on their own personal situation. Kids could be coming to school and don't have nothing in their belly. You never know. And you pressuring them, and they haven't ate since yesterday morning. So being observant of young people's behavior is key as an adult. Don't use your own experience in your life to judge them. Look at them as kids and see how they move. And then win over the kid. Once you win over the kid, you can get them to do anything.
Gotcha. Now, when it comes to adults, I get a lot of pushback when I try to point them in the right direction. I'm like, hey, listen, when it comes to this, that, and the other, you're going the wrong way. You might want to consider this over here, you know. And
what age? What age?
We're talking about mid-20s, early 30s. Some of them mid-30s.
Well,
you know
those are not kids. Those are grown-ass men.
Right.
Let me tell you something. If you're dealing with a grown-ass man, you know, the key slogan or motto of my show, I'm not trying to change you. I'm looking for like-minded men that recognize that there's a problem and they want to be on the right side of whatever that situation is. If you got to force a man to see the light, he ain't ready. Leave him where he's at. Period.
So
don't
sir,
try to make nobody see nothing.
If I can say a quote, right? It's a quote that's alleged to have been stated by Satoshi Nakamoto himself, right? He said, if you do not know, I do not have time to explain. Simple.
Well, what I would say with that is, if you don't know that there is a problem, if you know there's a problem, you can be fixed. But if you don't know there's a problem, I'm not going to try to show you that you have a problem and then try to get you to then take the medicine to fix the problem. That's that's a difficult task.
Right.
That's a difficult task. I'd like to interject really quickly.
Yes, Alonzo, welcome to Sage Talk. How are you, young man?
First time I've seen you. Thank you for having me up here.
Not a problem.
I actually want to speak to Mandrell's first question about how can we teach boys to be men, or even when we're speaking to the relevant experience of younger men. One of the ways, especially with the beauty of things like the internet, is things such as this. Sage Talk, Mandrell, I've seen you guys online, and even Practical Absolutes, and I believe you're a younger gentleman. But I've seen the way that you carry yourself, and there's a certain decorum that a man of a certain caliber is going to carry himself with, and that's going to transfer wherever you go. So that's number one. And then Sage Talk, you actually spoke to it. And I think it's even more important, however, with gentlemen who may be maybe not in their 30s, but definitely encroaching on their 30s, to even do things like fellowship with them, to go to the bar with them, have a drink, talk to them about, because guys are going through things. For example, a lot of people, I tell my story all the time. The reason I started selling life insurance was because in 2008, 3 days before Mother's Day, I got shot 5 times in front of my mother. The reason that happened was because of a female. So I understand how men are going through a lot of different things, and we can speak to them through
Thanks
our
to the
own
Most High, you're
experiences.
still here with us, brother.
I'm
Thanks to the
sorry?
Most High, you're still here with us.
I
Hmm.
definitely do think that, yes.
Yeah.
And that that speaks to um the quality of the man of yourself, that you don't want to be there alone. Anton says it all the time. I want to be rich but not alone. So I want everybody who's in my circle to carry themselves a certain way. um, I'll give you another example. I used to live a different type of lifestyle than I do now, and recently something occurred that had me conflicted. The police were looking for a certain gentleman that I happen to know, and they came around and they were asking about him. Now, prior to, no snitches get stitches, but I realized I'm a married man who works in a certain position, and I have a wife who works in a certain position, and I have family members and nieces and nephews who live in this area. And so I happened to speak to the police about his particular whereabouts. And then I felt bad about it. But at the end of the day, he's out here doing things that are making life harder on not just me, but my nieces and nephews coming up, and my neighborhood as an overall. It's bringing down my property value. um,
Well, I,
I'm
I would say
sorry to
I
rant.
would say this. I tip my hat to you because in the black community, we uphold fuckery as the code, but
Amen.
shit that really goes towards building a better black community and build safer families and community, we kick that shit to the curb and we uphold
Yes.
all the fuckery where all the bad guys get to set the tone to the community, and then we bitch about why we have a fucked up community. So I tip my hat to you, brother. You did the right thing. And slowly but surely, more of us are going to have to stand up and do the right thing. We're going to have to step up to fix our own community at some point, because how long will this continue to be the way it is? Absolutely. And I'm glad that you're here with us and that you're recovering well. And you know what? Sometimes we have to come to a juncture in life that is life defining for us to kind of reevaluate who we are as men. And
All right,
some men come out of that situation better than when they went in. And from what I'm listening and I'm hearing from you, is that definitely you made some hard choices that was necessary to improve yourself and your family, both your wife, your children, and your surrounding family as well. So kudos to you. Hey, that one, Mike, welcome to Sage Talk. How are you, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I want to say I appreciate what you brothers doing, man. I see it in you organizing. Mr. Sage, Mr. Lee, I appreciate that. The positive mind state, the positive way you're supposed to think and move. I totally agree with you as far as like-minded men need to get together and get us in order. That way we can start off. At some point, the ones that's not there can see us moving in a solid movement as an image and want to copy that. But I want to support you guys, man, whatever you guys got going on. If I can help out, I want to be part of the Black Man organization you're putting together. So if you send me a link, I want to sign up and do I need to be part of that? And also, I want to help out any way I can.
Oh, absolutely. Do you own your own business right now, or what's your
Yeah, I
situation?
own my multiple businesses. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, do me a favor. Drop your name and your email in the back chat, the private chat, and that way I'll follow up with you. JR, we should be having the BAG membership soon. I think he's waiting for YouTube to approve it to roll it out. That will be coming out. Once that's done, then we'll be creating some private uh, workshops that only those who are members will have access to, and we'll be able to do some live training with different individuals that have skills that can. We want to build men basically from the bottom up. We want to deal with their mental, their emotional. We also want to deal with their physical in terms of getting their body in their physical shape. We want to get them in terms of their Their fashion, because we need to, as young men in our 20s and 30s, we need to get our fashion style up as well. But also, I want us to be able to start building men that have character. And today, what I was talking about in our leadership uh, talk was really about building men from the inside out. Because of slavery and the way we have evolved up until 2022, we have had to build ourselves from the outside in. We have had to build our physical body up, and we've had to go get the money first. Many of us don't have a father in the home that can help lay a good foundation and principles and ethical standards as a man. But as a institution here on YouTube and Black Alphas Group, we can help to do that. And brothers like Mandrell is talking about that need that fellowship to get with other strong-minded brothers, they can find a place there to fill the blank and the emptiness in them, where they can start filling those empty spaces and learn from other men, men of their similar pair age and men of older age, like myself. They can give them a barometer on how to move in life and to become more successful, both in the economics stratosphere, but also from your core as a man. So it's a twofold situation. And brothers like yourself, the one Mike, that have something to contribute, we'll be sending out, myself and Logic will be sending out soon a lesson plan, because whatever workshop we will do, we want it to be thought out. I don't want it to be something that's random, off the cuff, just kind of winging it. So I wanted something where we're going to lay out the plan, and then you'll just fill in the blanks on how you're going to address it. And then once we approve it, we'll set a schedule and a time and when we're going to drop that. And you guys will be able to come up and present to the audience, and it will be a closed group. Carl Oakley, welcome to Sage Talk, brother. How are you?
How you doing, Mr. Lee? Thanks for having me up here. Good to see all you gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Hey, I wanted to say real quick back to something that Mandrell asked about raising up from a young generation. One of the things
Sure.
I've found is that giving responsibility helps. So, like, if I could set an example, if I'm having someone cut the grass, right, I'm gonna give them the tools that they need to cut the grass. I'm gonna give them direction, clear cut, thorough directions on how to cut the grass and what it is, the overall expectations, what it is I'm looking for, and then I'm allow them, the time to do it. Then I'm gonna come back and then I'm gonna assess their work. But then from there, I'm going to walk them through what they did right, what they did wrong. And then I'm going to allow them the opportunity to pass it down and teach someone else. And I think, and it's like you said, though, some people will get it, some people won't, and that's children, that's men, X, Y, and Z. But that's one of the things I learned just going through my military career as well, is just when I gave responsibility to my younger soldiers, it actually helped them to develop as leaders, a leadership mindset, and also knowing how to just set the example. Like, that's the first things first, right? They want to make sure that you're leading by example. So I see that's something that really helps the young generation coming up. But then that bleeds over to adulthood, because if we look at this overall dynamic between men and women, women have a hard time submitting or following under a man because of there's a insecurity there, right? They're feeling insecure about a certain thing. Either the man isn't leading in the area of finances or leading the home, covering your home, whether it be prayer, whether it be even putting security measures in place, an alarm system, X, Y, and Z. But as a man, when you walk through that with your wife or with your woman, and let's say, hey, here's what, now she doesn't feel insecure. She'll have no problem following you. So those are just some things I've found just throughout my walk, my journey on how to develop as a leader, and you know what I mean, how that kind of bleeds over to the generations.
Well pointed out. One thing I would add to that, because success breeds confidence, and confidence breeds self-assuredness, right? And a lot of young men sometimes might be missing that. However, though, if you're dealing with tools or machinery that can be dangerous, it's important to go over safety measures and training in those regard, right? Because a lot of young men today they're big in physique and size, but they may not be knowledgeable of how things work. And you being an individual who understand how things work, uh, I come from an engineering background also, so safety was something that was big. I was in the 80s, I was in nuclear engineering, so safety was something that was big. So I always look at safety measures first and what potential risks there might be. Because you may have good intention in helping a young man, and he might be 20, 22 years old, but then if he hurts himself, today we're in a sue, get the money, get rich quick. So we got to be mindful that as men are growing, that their mind is also growing, and the trust and the brotherhood link between us has to grow, and it takes time. And
Definitely.
though you may be have good intentions, sometimes good intentions can backfire. Specifically with individuals that might be double-minded on whether or not they really want to be a part of it, and but you're trying to persuade them that they should, take this good step and move forward in this direction, and you'll see how things will turn out. Sometimes when a person's mind is not into something, it causes them to be open up to missteps, and misstep can cause injuries, and injuries can backfire. And in America, that can be a lawsuit, and that can set us back a bit. So just be
Mr. Lee,
mindful
Understood.
when
I
you're
have
dealing with
one
men
quick question for
in
you.
those circumstances. Sure, go
One
ahead.
more quick question for you. I met people who, like, I'm about to start a second business now, right? And I met people who, of course, they see me and they're like, they get excited and everything because they listen to my advice and they start going in the right direction. But all of a sudden, when I start telling them, in terms of getting a job, then I tell them, I said, listen, it's not worth it to work for someone else. I understand owning the business in for everybody. You should start doing this for yourself. Because I notice people, some have talent and they should be in business for themselves. But for some
But when,
reason, I don't get it. Like they'll follow me to a certain point, but then they just veer off course. And I'm just like,
but
just like, what is that? They could be so
discipline
much more. They
trumps.
could be so much more, but they kind of cut themselves off at the kneecaps. They do it themselves. I don't get it.
Some people
Let me
are
tell
afraid
you.
of
Let me tell
success.
you what it is. 1 second, Alonzo. Let me tell you what it is. Discipline trumps talent, and I think what you might see somebody might have a certain ability, but they don't have the discipline within themselves yet. And sometimes, depending on the business, they may need to learn the ins and outs of the business, the connect. Some businesses you just need to leverage relationships and know how to move within the industry. And that takes time. It might take 5 years. It may take a decade. But once you get the expertise under your belt, then moving to the next level and opening your own business, then some people can take that step, because you have to be disciplined within yourself. You have to learn how to manage other people. You have to learn how to manage your client. You have to learn how to deal with the bank. You have to deal with accounting. There's so many aspects to doing a business that some people they get overwhelming, and they just, after a few years, it's like a tsunami. Boom,
Right.
washed them right out. Alonzo, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was also going to say sometimes you kind of put it the best in terms of discipline, but also even in terms of like self-sabotage. Some people prefer to be the worker bee as opposed to being on top. Some people don't want to be exposed to a certain liability or may assume that a certain liability is there. I see it all the time in the field that I work in. People do or don't want to expand their businesses. I'll speak to them in terms of their business on things like a buy-sell agreement. And Sage Talk, I really want to speak with you because now that you've captured my heart, you taught Intro to Economics, and I went to school for music. And then I skipped all my music classes, but I did go to my microeconomics course, and now I'm a
Okay.
financial advisor.
Sweet. Okay. Are you Series 7 license or Series 35?
Neither. So I'm doing 65, but right now, my
Okay.
main focus is fixed products.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool. Charles Atkins, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Sage Talk.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in and say I like the talk that you guys are having. I don't have a lot of these discussions with people in general, especially men. Um, I also grew up in a house without a father. I don't want to put too much blame on that. My mother did what she could where she was. As far as leadership, had some mentors and things like that, but didn't have these type of conversations with people. I am married. I have a child, so I feel like I've done some of those things correctly. But as far as schooling and work and things like that, and career-based things, kind of gotten off track. How do you work on yourself, like on getting to that point where you guys are at, where you're starting your business and things like that? Is that like something you just have? Is it a class that you take to gain
Well,
leadership
I would say
experience?
what skill do you have? You just muted yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I work currently in the field with youth in the community. I've done a lot of internships, kind of like the Europe type of internships, computer technological, things. I was also in the criminal justice field before I kind of lost interest in that. So kind of 50-50 when it comes to that.
What's
Uh,
your
uh,
passion right now, if you have one?
that's the thing. I don't know. I really don't know. Forensics is
Okay.
always something that I always wanted to get into as far as schooling, but I just don't know.
You said forensics?
Forensics, yes,
That's
because
medical
originally I was a
forensics?
criminal justice
Medical
major.
forensics or computer forensics?
Yeah,
Security
computer
forensics.
forensics or
Okay.
yeah, DNA, crime scene work, things
Okay.
like that. More not, and this is kind of the reason why I lost interest. Not like hands-on dealing with actual,
On scene.
criminals, just more the cases.
Right.
Yeah,
Evaluating the evidence.
yes,
Okay.
because I feel like
Uh,
that's what I'm good at. As far, even when I worked minimal jobs, customer service jobs, I'm really good at data entry and just solving problems.
well, I would say that if you're in a place where you don't know what you want to do and you have a skill that you're good at, build on the skill that you have because 9 times out of 10, doors will open. Opportunity will present themselves out of left field that you may not have been considering. Promotions may open up that offer you to step into an opportunity that can totally transform your situation. So work on the skills that you have and the abilities that you excel in right now so you can become better at it. And if there are certifications necessary, take the schooling, get the certifications because certifications gives you opportunity to move up. And most, if it's a government business job or whatever, right? But perfecting your skills is, I think, is necessary in the environment in which we live today because whatever skill that you have that you're an expert in or in that field that could be an expert, you can also become a consultant. That's where it can broad off into independence, right? Because you can be working your job, having a skill, being a manager, but at the same time, you can do consultative work privately for others. And that's where doors can open up for you where you can realize, okay. And then you can move if you want to go on a tangent and open up your own business. But sometimes, and I think since we're in this YouTube generation, so many people think you can just go out there and start a business snap. To really be good at a business and succeed at it, I saw someone in the chat said something about self-sabotage and fear. Yes, some people self-sabotage, but the reason why they self-sabotage is because they realize they don't have the skill level for what they're doing. And like who was it? I think it was Practical Absolute was saying, or was it Alonzo, that some people don't want that responsibility of being the head honcho in charge. That's a lot of
That was
responsibility
Alonzo.
being a head honcho. So you may have to grow into that responsibility to whether or not you will own your own business, but you can
Is
still
I
become
think that's the question
successful.
that I had. I'm sorry to interrupt. How do
No,
you
go
get
ahead.
to that point? Is that something? See, that's the thing. I so like with you guys and people that I've seen on here before, it seems like you guys have that, and that's something that I want. Now, are you taught
It
that? Is
It
that
will
man, it comes.
add to it. It will come.
It comes because, like for me, I looked at my situation and fantastic job I had. You know what I mean? Important work, fulfilling work. But then I look for some reason I didn't estimate of where I would be in my 60s. You know, I was like, wait a minute, hold up. I'm how old? And then I looked at my other friends who had the same background as I did. You know, in the military, and these guys go on and started their own businesses and became millionaires. But before I started anything, I asked myself, is this what I want to do? Do I want to own this kind of business? You know what I mean? And when I finally came to the answer was yes, that's when I started. You know,
okay? So
but
there was
And
a
leverage.
level
initially
of there
said,
was already a
initially
level
said,
of interest that you had previously. So it doesn't just need to be about money or anything. It needs to. You have to have that interest in that
yeah,
field to
like
go
Mr. Lee
forward with
said,
it.
yeah, like Mr. Lee and I both
Well,
said, it comes, man, it does.
one of the things I would say though is because life is expensive, choose something that have a long-term outlook for growth where you can make good money. You don't want to put in 14-hour days and not making the kind of money that will be rewarding for your wife and kids and you, right? Do something that will also make you the money. And if you're not there yet, see where you need to get to and what you need to do to get there. And one of the things I think you may want to develop a skill in, meet people. When you meet people, talk to them about what you do. That's all. You know why? Because one thing I've found, and this is where I might sound a little bit corny, but I have not had many racist experience with white people. And I've worked in a white industry all my life, both in construction and both in finance when I switched career. And many white people have had a lot to do with my growth and success. And I think it's how you carry yourself and how you interact with people. And people will introduce you to other people or show you things that you don't know. And not all of these people will be white, and not all of them will be black.
It's funny you say that because for me, I've had the reverse both ways, and I think that's kind of what discouraged me a little. Also, again, no
Which
blame,
is,
but I've had the reverse at the workplace, both white
okay, you've
and
had
black.
discrimination.
Yeah, within my
Okay,
own
Use it
community.
as fuel. Use
Sorry.
it as fuel.
right,
Use it as fuel.
right.
Make sure when they do that, make sure you bust your butt to know more than they do, be better at at your job than anyone else. Prove them wrong. Force them to give you the promotion. Force them to acknowledge you with your work.
And
That's how you
not
do it.
only
You
that,
force them to acknowledge you.
because if your discrimination is just from colleagues and not necessarily higher ups, you will get noticed by higher ups. But more importantly, once you become so good, you could look for positions outside of your company at competitive companies, and that's where you really make your money when you leave and go to a competitor.
Big thanks.
So strategize always.
If it's
I
okay,
appreciate
if I
it.
want
Thank
to
you for
add to
that.
that, if you don't mind.
I'll use that as a tool, and I can definitely do that. I just need to hear that from other people, other men. Thank
No,
you.
you know what, Charles, and I think I saw it in the comments. One of the things the number one voice that we hear is our own, and I think you need to hear that from yourself first before hearing it from other men. I hear a lot of, and this is not a shot because we all deal with it, but I do hear a lot of doubt in yourself with how you're speaking. So I really think you just work on your power voice, learn on your self talk, how you're talking to yourself, but also too, I heard Mr. Lee say it, reaching out, I don't think there's anything wrong with identifying maybe 2 or 3 areas that you want to be successful in, and then find people who are successful in those areas, like maybe on LinkedIn or something like that, and then reach out to them in your area. Say, hey, can I, meet you for a cup of coffee, or would you mind doing a Zoom call? I really have an interest in this. I see that you're successful at it. You've been doing it for 25 plus years. I want more info. I'll pay you for your time, and have that person help walk you through the process. That's something that has helped. I know has helped me.
I want to also add that
I could maybe volunteer for a day or something like that and kind of see what they do. Intern, I mean, working, but yeah, for a few hours, just something. Just get around people that are in that field that are already there.
How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm in my 30s.
Okay.
I'm in my 30s, mid 30s. So
can I add something to the comment, to the conversation?
Sure.
I think that I think a lot of time it's so much about follow your passion. Your passion comes later. You got to earn income to be able to get to your passion. So once you get to doing things you don't want to really do, as long as it's productive for you financially, you can at some point transition into your passion. But we're going to do a lot of things that we don't want to do to make income and take care of our families until we get to our passion. I think that get misconstrued a lot sometimes. I want to kind of just clear that up,
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like I said, my last job, I was well paid. I was told I was crazy to start working. You know what I mean? So I mean, but at the same time, I knew it was time for a change. It was time, and like I said, I looked around, and everyone else who had done this, old teammates from the army, they had started businesses. They're millionaires now. So it's not a situation where we don't know what to do. You know what I mean? We know it's just me. I just got into a job, loved what I did, and got comfortable. Now, but for some reason, it just, like we said, it comes. I was like, wait a minute, it's time for something different. I might change the world with what I'm doing here. But at the same time, what am I left with? So now that I work so much that I save so much money, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't have to worry about bills and nothing like that, so now I can start a business with things that I know, use my expertise. And it is something I'm passionate about. I do love it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like one Mike is right. Earn your income first, man. And then while you're earning your income, figure out what your passion is and set yourself up for that.
Would you recommend
I would
that?
like to add. I would like to add a little bit to that, Charles.
Me too, after you, if I can.
Sure. What I would say is definitely you need to survive, to take care of, make sure you could cover your overhead. But doing what you're good at over time, because sometimes some men are not passionate men. Some men, the drive within them is low, and it takes time before it becomes a burning, passionate fire. So if you do the things that you're good at, the thing that you're good at is usually tapped into your talents, your gift. Because if you're good at it, more than likely it comes easier to you than to others. And if you just keep doing it, you will find that you excel at it more. And there's nothing better than to succeed at something that to add and build to one's confidence. And as your confidence build and grow, it put a pep in your step. It makes you walk a certain way. People take note when they see you. They're like, hey, what's going on with this guy? He's doing something right. Hey, come over here. People start leaning on you, picking your brain or giving you information, adding more to you. So success breeds success. It's one of those things. So if you're good at something, do that until it lights the engine under your fire and get you moving. Because sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah, what's the name? Just really everything was said was very eloquently put. It was amazing. It's very true. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I will say though is because like I'm in this current stage. Since, I'm 23. Like I'm in the current stage where basically, I mean, of course, I'm studying chemistry, specifically biochemistry, which I'm going for a master's coming fall.
Awesome.
and I'm basically, of course, I have this aim in mind. I have a specific aim in mind, but I'm also trying to learn things that are not too far away from the field, but strengthen my overall skill set as it relates to me getting into that field. For example, it can be as seemingly unrelated as working out, or something as more correlated as learning programming, because actually computational chemistry is a thing, right? So like it's I just want the people who's watching to also keep in mind that if they are going to try to learn things that are low key out of their seemingly out of their current field, make sure it's done with a purpose and it applies to the major goal. You can only have one goal. Every other goal has to be under it and apply to it. So
Absolutely. Hey guys, I just got a message from JR. She said that the BAG group is already set up. So those of you who are looking to join, go ahead and join. So that way, when we roll out phase 1 of the workshops, definitely you will be notified and you can be present. So definitely. With regard to the question that I asked at the end of my intro talk, I asked, what exactly is your core intrinsic value? And I use the term intrinsic because it's something that is core to you. Now, everyone is not going to have the same things, but it's something that it's like a way in which you move in life. So I was asking for what are your 3 things that's part of your core intrinsic value? And let me see if I can clarify intrinsic value again, so you guys, for those who didn't come in at the beginning of the talk, I said a good leader must have 3 key things that makes up his character or his intrinsic value. He must have a set of principles, a code by which he lives. He must have ethics, a standard that he holds himself to, and a moral compass, the choices he makes in life regardless of money. Who would like to go first on that one? Alonzo, I see you in deep thought.
I can go ahead. The mine. I already know mine. Well, my 3. Do I have to just pick 3?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay. Loyalty.
Just 3, three
Okay.
chords.
Loyalty. Next one will be respect. The third is be the best that I could be in whatever I do.
Okay. Loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
To who?
Well, to myself and the ones I love.
Okay. Respect. How do you generate that?
Respect for all. You respect everyone and everything to some degree. Now,
What's your code for respect? Because some men said you got to give respect to get respect. Some men say the reverse. You got to give me respect before I can give you respect. What's your code for respect?
my code respect. I'm going to respect you to a certain degree by default. For example, say I never knew you, right? Never met you day in life, and I see you on the street. I'm not going to hit you over the head or pick on you or bully you or nothing like that. It's the same thing with wait staff when they're bringing your food or whatever. You don't treat them like trash. You treat a person like a person. In other words, be humane.
Okay. So you give respect. You offer it, and it must be someone must reject it before you.
Well, they can accept it or not.
Right.
I'm going to give it to you regardless.
Usually, if respect is offered, it's usually accepted.
Usually.
But some people have a certain way in which they move that they are just disrespectful. So even respect offered can be batted away like they don't want it. So in those cases, then you reconstitute and take note of those individuals.
I'm prepared for that too.
Cool. Absolutely.
I'm prepared for that too.
Anyone else?
I'll go ahead and go. The things that I have is courtiership, diligence, and integrity.
Okay.
So I say courtiership because of what Mandrill said essentially. He said it's like a set level of respect that's going to be applied to the individual he meets, right? I mean, that's basically what it means. I feel like to play the perfect courtier, right? I see it as such that the perfect courtier is the individual that's everybody should strive for, right? And when it comes to diligence, I mean, it's synonymous with I think of like I guess I mean diligence, discipline, like it's basically like being what you have, doing your stuff, being on your stuff, being focused, being aiming. And lastly, the integrity is you know what I mean, like to admit when you're wrong, to to admit when somebody else is wrong, to be able to say things, to be able to also keep in mind the risk reward of what it is you're doing, because everything has consequences. But that's what I would say.
Okay. Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, I would say one of mine was passion. And when I say passion, in term, I guess it correlates kind of similar to a lot of um, multiple things. Like Mandra was saying, the loyalty. So when I say passion, I mean, if there's something I care about, you're going to understand that I care about it, and I'm going to do what is necessary to protect that. Whether that be, if I have to put myself in harm's way, so be it. For a lot of men, I can assume that's the same thing for like our wives or our children. Um, my next thing would be work ethic. And in terms, I understood when you said ethics, obviously working in the field that I work in, I have to be ethical, especially, for example, as a fiduciary, if somebody gives me a check for 50 grand written in my name, I can't then, go run off on the plug. So I have to be upstanding and hold that standard kind of all around the board in terms of ethics. Um, and then lastly, I would say leadership in terms of if there's a set goal, I'm willing to go after it. And in terms of being a good leader, I feel that I'm a good follower. And I feel that great leaders are some of the best followers because they had to learn from somewhere.
Absolutely. Well said. Let me ask you, do you work for a firm or do you own your own company?
No, I belong to an IMO.
Okay. You can take checks in your own name?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware.
So
Okay.
the reason why I'm attached to a BD.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Dr. David, welcome to the conversation. How are you, sir?
Very good, Mr. Lee. Thank you very much for these conversations. I think these are conversations that we really, really need as Black men in our community because I think there's a lot of conversation about the six-figure man and the high earners and sometimes the problem I have with those conversations when we have these conversations and say they ask a question about, oh, what would you do on this topic or whatever. There's this ego whereby a lot of guys that are, and I respect the also, when these conversations happen, oftentimes the men just say things like, oh, that's not going to happen for me. I'm the way I move, the way and they forget that they're young guys who are listening to them who want to learn how to get there and they're not there yet. Like just a bit of background, like I respect to the brother who talked about chemistry and things like that. I'm a doctor of chemical engineering. I did my bachelor's and master's in chemical engineering. I run a renewable energy firm, basically focusing on rechargeable batteries. So similarly, like a Tesla kind of company, we do residential and electric vehicles and things like that. And I'm a VP for a mud logging company, which is basically an oil and gas company and things like that. But when I started my career, I wasn't like some of these guys who make 500K or $1 million a year and things like that. I started right there on the bottom. But then I was married, but I didn't move like, oh, I had the money to put a woman on a payroll or whatever. So when I come back from work after making 70,000 a year or whatever, I still support my wife. I still, if she's tired or whatever, I help her in the kitchen. But I'm on my grind, and today I'm where I am, making more than 500,000 per year. So I think a lot of times we need to talk about these things whereby we need to say, if you're married, you know what, you need to support your wife. If you don't make that kind of money to put a woman on a payroll and all those kind of things. But then, like you're saying, and I respect you for bringing this conversation, because a lot of men need to pursue their passion, but they need to also understand responsibility. You talk about those three things. For me, it is commitment,
Uh-huh.
discipline, it's commitment, discipline, and ethics. Commitment to my goal, commitment to my vision, commitment to my passion, what I want to see for my family. As a man, we should have a vision, we should have a direction for our family. And a woman should
That's
come to you and you should tell her, this is where we're going, baby. This is how we're going to get there. This is how the steps we're going to take. This is what we need to do to get there. And as a man, when you know that, you start putting in the work to get to that place. And then that woman sees, oh, there's a direction we're going. Okay, he knows the direction, and I'm gonna follow him because he knows the direction and he's making it happen. Just to round up, because I don't want to go on for. I respect all the
no, that's
brothers on the
fine.
panel. There are a lot of guys who say, they want to rap, they want to do music, they want to be an MC and things like that. I don't shit on people's career, and I respect it. If that's what you want to do, great. But then put in the work. Learn how to do it. Be good at it. Don't just like rap to your mom and she's propping you and clapping for you. Like, get out there and actually like put in the grind. But then if you're married, you need a job that pays you while the hustle gets to where it can pay you. You're not just gonna say, baby, stay with me while I'm hustling with the rap game and all this. You need to take care of your family. That's the responsibility of a man. That's why it comes in place. So I respect the passion, I respect the hustle. Go after it. Be passionate about it, do it. But then focus on your responsibility. If you have a responsibility, you need to deal with that responsibility and handle it. But pursue your passion. Listen to OGs like Mr. Lee, who give the deep conversations. And like has been said before, connect with other brothers who are on the also. Kevin Samuels always talk about having a pack. Look for guys who are on the same grind, going where you're going, and we can all get there and achieve our goals. I respect to all the brothers on the panel, and I'll just keep quiet so we continue the conversation.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Oh,
One
my
thing I
bad.
would say is that, sometimes when we hear men who are already successful talk about employing your wife and different things, they're speaking from the end game.
Hmm.
They have already arrived.
All right.
And so often we don't hear the track where you're on the
Exactly.
track and you're running to get to your point where you can get to the end game. And you have to develop yourself. Success
Indeed.
is not, you just don't go from coming out of college and boom, you're successful. You have to build yourself up. In this space, we talk about a lot how women are born with their beauty. Men have to become a successful man.
I
And
agree.
that journey is different for every man, but yet still, it's a journey. And all of us can add something to another man to help give him perspective on that walk where he's going. But we all have to understand that getting to where you are $1 million man takes work. And not every man may become $1 million man, but if you're putting in the work and you have vision and you have goals, you will get further than where you started. And I think that's something that Dr. David, uh, the one Mike, Carl Oakley, Alonzo, Practical Absolute, and Mandrill, you guys have definitely shed light on in this conversation today. Because a lot of young men, even those who in their mid to late 20s and in their early to mid 30s, if they're unsure of where they're going, they still need to know that you have to stay on a path and you have to set the path for yourself and you got to work it. You got to work it. You got to put in the time. And when you're young, I mean, I used to work 16 hours, 18-hour days. When I was in construction, I mean, yeah, I guess construction and nuclear engineering, I go to work at 4:30 in the morning. We had to check in at 6:30 and you didn't check out until 6:30 at night. I mean, it was 12-hour shift every day. And that was 6 days a week from Monday through Saturday. And I was in
Yeah,
my
Ethna's
early
on
20s and
Sunday.
I did that. I did that with no breeze. And I was in Illinois at the time. I used to drive to Chicago on the weekend on Friday night, roller skate, dance, party all night, come back, drive home, feed my dog, and go straight to work, get there by 6:30 and pull another 12 hour. So, I mean, like when you're young, it's a no brainer.
No brainer.
Make your money, do what you got to do.
Sage talk.
Thank you guys for. I just want to say
Oh, yeah,
thank
go-
you
go
for
ahead, my
breaking
bad.
down those in between steps. Because, like I said, I see people like David and you, Sage, and
Speak up a little
everyone
louder. I
else.
can barely hear you.
Sorry. I see everyone else at that point where you basically made it, and maybe not made it like you still have a bigger goal, but you made it to where you wanted to get to. And I think for myself, it's more about like just getting on that track. Because in my opinion, I feel I'm the type of person, once I'm on the track, I can complete it. I just need to
So
get
Charles,
there.
it's great that you actually brought that up. I'm really glad you brought that up before I had said something because it ties in, right? So the points elucidated by Sage and Dr. David, like, okay, so first of all, I salute to you, Dr. David. Amazing, amazing, sir, amazing.
Awesome.
And the fact that you're going into like fuel cells and whatnot. I mean, I'm not fuel cells. The fact that you're going into like the fact you're studying chemical engineering and whatnot, and the fact I'm thinking along the lines of probably maybe engineering or maybe fuel cells. That's what I immediately thought about. And see, I go to Florida A&M University, and this what I'm going to say right now is going to tie into what you're saying, Charles. So I'm not there yet, right? I'm not close, right? So like I said, that's my last semester. Getting my bachelor's in biochemistry. I'm going to go into a master's in some chemistry degree the following fall. But during this time, I have this upcoming presentation I have with a National Science Foundation grant that's already been pretty much given to me. Half of it has been dispersed to me because of my research, and it's been partnered with the University of Virginia and Florida A&M University, and it's with the Department of Chemistry. Specifically, what it is dealing with using proton exchange membranes in fuel cells. Specifically, I was assigned with this chemical known as phenolphthalein, and this other chemical known as 4,4-dichlorosulfone, and I had to make a reaction with it and have it polymerized. And I also made composite structures with cellulose, making it different ratios to see how it degrades using TGA, and I characterize it using spectroscopy, IR, and nuclear magnetic resonance. Me saying all that is basically technical jargon to show that I'm putting in the work, and I have work to do. I have a lot more to go, but it's not about just saying how am I going to get my feet in the water. It's like getting your feet in the water. It's getting them C's sometimes if you get a messed up test grade. It's even a D. You know what I mean? You do not get dismayed by that. You get your ass up and go get the work, man. That's why I think. I'm not talking at you, bro. I'm not talking at you, bro. I'm talking about everybody. Like
I
that's just
love
how
what
I
you're
think of
saying.
it, man.
I love
That's
what you're
just
saying. I love what
humble,
you're
bro.
saying basically you ain't doing the process. And too many of us like to
Yes, sir.
skip over the process. The
Yes, sir.
process is
Abs-
too valuable and way too important to be skipped over. And I
Indeed.
honor that about
abs-
you. And everything everybody said, I really agree with. I want to add just two things. And one of them was already touched on. I say discipline and humbleness. I think that sometimes we lack the humbleness to be able to pass information on to other people that look like us and to be thoughtful enough to put the time in mentally to get them what they need to be successful. So I think between humble and discipline and all the other things other brothers on the panel, that basically sums it up in my point of view. And I appreciate all of that. And I think the more that we collab and get together with like-minded men and move in the right direction, that power circle will get so strong that the ones that's not there will be to come feed to it and build to get into that circle. So by what we doing here, that's why I love it so much, Mr. Sage. You just inspired me so much with what I was already doing to start the conversation. And I love you for that, my brother. You just don't even know. I really love you for that. My young brother, man, take care of your business, man. I love you with that. You motivated and you enjoying
Salute,
the
sir.
process. Take the process wholeheartedly and embrace it all the way. Struggle for everything you can, learn everything you can, everything, and bring
And
it back
Semper
to people that's gonna help
Fidelis.
you benefit your whole life, man. I love that and respect that, man. I'm gonna fade out for a minute, get back to my family time. But man, I appreciate y'all and I'll see y'all every weekend.
Thank you very much for gracing us. Absolutely.
See you later. I'll
That's
Glad to
do
up.
the
do it.
same.
Thank you
I'll
guys.
check out, watch on the sidelines. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll take all your advice. I've been watching for the past few weeks, and it's been a slow process as far as inspiration because I'm building that up, but I'm learning.
Take
I'm
your
learning what
time.
I can.
Remember, the turtle won the race.
He did.
That's right.
So
That's
just
right. That's
stay
right.
on track, stay focused, keep doing what you're doing. In time, what you're looking for that igniting passion to rise up in you, sometimes it just come like a light bulb one day. But you need to be putting in the work because there are other connections you need to make, whether it's people or whether it's knowledge or
Facts.
experience. There's something that hasn't coagulated yet to ignite, but you stay on track, it's going to come together. Don't worry about it. And we're here to support you, so check in whenever you want.
Definitely.
Oh, by the way, for those who are asking with regard to how to join, I think the join button on the main screen will send you to all the various membership, and then you'll see BAG membership at the bottom, or the last tier out of all the different membership tiers. Hey, Definite G, welcome to the panel. How are you, brother?
Doing all right as usual. You doing all right, Mr. Lee?
Yeah, I'm doing well, doing well. Still got a little thing going on, tickle going on in my throat, but I'm overall okay. Yo, medicine is expensive these days, bro. I had to drop some cash the other day. No joke. Go ahead. I think he's frozen.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyone else want to
I think
say
for
a few words?
Going back to the intrinsic values, I know for me, I would say being a humble servant, accountability, and definitely consistency. That I truly believe that where I'm at in my life and the levels I've gotten to only be 39 years old, I attribute a lot of that to
Can you guys hear me?
Serving, being a humble servant. We can hear you.
Go ahead. Let's see if
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So all right.
Go ahead,
I'm
speak.
good. Everybody can hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. So just on the main topic, and you actually touched on what I was about to talk about, like how women would say, like, I would be a follower unless the leaders show up. Well, let's take that idea for a step, because I actually we need to start with the leaders first, because that's how it's all going to really take off anyways. Is the think tank. But let's just flow with their logic, what the typical female would say nowadays about like seeing the leader first and then following. So let's say all the leaders, they know how to be a leader, they know how to conduct themselves in a leadership way, and they're in those positions, right? If the women still won't follow, because it's not like a light bulb, it's not like a switch that you're going to turn on and then all of a sudden they're just going to be subservient. No, they're going to still have a lot of their old behaviors, their old habits that's going to conflict with what the leader wants. So if they're still fighting against our leadership, or at least the leader's leadership, then they have to go. Like, we're not going to tolerate that until they're willing to follow. Like your I think your theme.
Let me say this. 1 second. Let me say this. What I don't want to do is interject negative.
Right.
As men, we will be on our course.
Yes.
The women, remember, especially if we're talking from a family or relationship standpoint, you only need one woman. And you may have to sift through many to find the one. But as you develop yourself as a man, you incorporate within yourself greater and greater and better talents, abilities, standards, and core to who you are as a person. And as you grow year by year, the woman that you may have met at 25 won't be the woman for you at 30. And the woman that you may have met at 28 won't be the woman for you at 35. So the point is, let's not focus on the woman that won't follow. Develop yourself as a leader. When
Right.
you find a woman that's suitable for you, she will follow you.
Indeed.
She will
Most
got
definitely.
she will catch your back.
Most definitely.
And that's why I'm not worried about it.
Exactly.
When you see people ask me why I'm still single, it's because there's only one direction in my relationships. That's the direction I'm going.
Absolutely.
You don't want to come. You can come with. You can come along, but if the day ever comes where you don't want to come anymore, okay. And that's the thing. You have to be willing to walk away. A lot of guys, I hate to bring it up, this old Will and Jada situation. That's perfect example. You have to be willing to walk away and stay on course. Because women have the power to bring down empires if you let them.
And raise up kings. They
Yeah,
can do both.
there you go. Exactly.
I do have a question though. We sit here and we talk about leadership. In leadership, you have to be leading someone or a group of a group of people to something. So in the form of a relationship, like what we heard, obviously Cam Newton, things of that nature, talking about where you leading a woman to? What's the goal? That's what I would say as a husband, as a husband of 9 years. There always has to be a goal. If I'm leading my wife in any area, what am I leading you to? We're sitting here talking about leadership. Like what's the goal?
So if I can bring touch on that, right? Like, I would say it may be a mute point to say, but it's probably important to bring up. Before you can lead anybody, you have to lead yourself. So effectively, if you are a leader, you will be leading yourself. So I stand by the argument that every man on this earth has to, in some capacity, be a leader. You cannot not be a leader. Wait, you can't. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, you know what I mean. Like, so when it comes down to it and whatnot, like, you have to go from within and build outwards. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sorry.
I will challenge. I will challenge that.
Okay.
What I would say to that is that as a man, you have the potential to be a leader, but not every man is a leader. Some men are just irresponsible. Some men
I agree.
never grow up. Some men are not good thinkers. Some men can't evaluate risk. If you can't evaluate risk, you're a poor leader. You'll take yourself into danger and those who follow you.
Exactly. That's why I agree with you, and I can still stand on my point. You said the word poor leader, right? You said the word poor leader.
Right.
Like, the thing is, they may be leading themselves to oblivion. You know, like the vast majority of people are. So I mean, they may be a leader.
But again, that's one of the issues that we find many women buck up against, right? No woman wants to follow a bad leader because that destroys her life. And this conversation today was about how to become a good or great leader. As Black men, we are rising up and we want to become the best that we can be. And I think we have the potential to be not only good leaders, we have in our genealogy, looking back in the past 40 to 60 years, men who have come up out of us that have been great leaders. So it's in us to be so. And some of us may need to be trained, but there's nothing wrong with being trained to become a good leader because leaderships are skills that can be learned. And even those who may have the natural ability to lead men, a commanding nature and authority in the way in which they speak and may be clear thinking, they still must need to learn some aspect of leadership, particularly depending upon their industry or business. When it comes to your family, obviously that's to each person's way in which they want to lead their family. But no one wants to be reckless with the lives of your wife and your children and your children's children, right? So as a leader, not being reckless is important. And those are things that we find today that many Black men are very reckless in their behavior and their movements. They're emotional. An emotional leader is a reckless leader. And we see
And
the
I wanted
evidence of
to
that.
yeah, and I wanted to like clarify my point. I wasn't trying to like have the leader focus on the people who aren't following the leadership. It's more that again, just going on to your point, Mr. Lee, that like, the leader's just gonna keep going. Like the leader is just going to lead, and whoever's going to join in, all right, then we'll work with them, we'll cultivate them, and then we'll keep pushing forward. So yeah, it wasn't really to focus on the people who aren't
No,
leading
no, I
or at least
understand.
aren't
I
following.
understand.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah. It was just
I
more
know,
about
no,
like, just keep going. Yeah.
no. Well, I think too, you know, me coming from Harlem, right? And growing up in a time where the drug game was a big game. And Harlem and back in the late 60s, 70s was like the spotlight of the capital of drug dealing. So I saw men in the drug game that were leaders and they were successful. But the path that they chose and their leadership abilities did not add to the value of the community. It led the community in a destructive path to a bitter end, to where we are today. So some men could be great leaders in chaos. So be mindful of the leader that you follow. It doesn't mean he's a bad leader. He's a great leader in chaos, but chaos leads to destruction. So know what you're following.
But I also
Well
think
said.
too, Mr. Lee, when it comes to the relationship, you know, we so often as men, we want to beat on our chest and just say, I'm the leader, you know, and not be able to, you know, take a step back and realize the situation that we're in and say, okay, let's figure this thing out together. You know, if I could use just and operate complete transparency, you know, and I'm not saying this is you do it your way, but this is how we did it. I realized, you know, for me, I'm a sound and solid decision maker. I've been making decisions for people at the highest level throughout my life. When I got married, I realized that my wife had the gift of administration. So when it came to finances, I wasn't all that great with my finances, but I was a great decision maker. So what happens? You know, we do our finances together, and it's everything's joint. My wife, she works out the numbers, works out the budget and everything. She comes to me before anything is done with the money, and she says, "How does this look? You are the CEO of this company. How does this look? Do we need to change anything? Do we need to move anything around? Still allow me to operate as the leader of the household, but yet I'm taking a step back because I know that managing money is a bit of a as a growing area for me, and I know that she has that gift. But through that, we're able to make a solid decision for the overall household, operating it that way.
I would say this: what makes a good leader is that his or her ability, well, his ability to delegate. Delegate to the people with the expertise that can get the job done and get a job done right the first time. So nothing wrong with that there. And I think so often as black men, I hear when we talk about relationships, we talk about a woman's value as basically just the sexual piece, of physical appearance. Every man wants an attractive woman, hands down. But you also want a woman that can complement you. That it would be great if she went to college and got all these education, paid money to get these degrees. Does her skill complement your skill and where you're taking the family? So it's important that you take, it's only in this weird internet space where we talk about black men and black women relationship, where the black woman does nothing and she's just sitting on a shelf somewhere gathering dust. In any other relationship around the world, women work. Women doing something to complement the success of the family. You're just not sitting around on your ass doing jack. Hell no. And I think as black men, we have to get out of that mindset that a woman's value is nothing but her body. If
I
your
agree.
idea that a woman's value is nothing but her body, then what do you bring as a leader to a family? Or you just
Mm.
want the woman as a plaything? If the woman is just a plaything, then legacy should not be part of your conversation. Family should not be part of your conversation. You might need to either grow up or that's your path. You have
Yep.
chosen the way you want to go. So certain things are not going to be part of your conversation. But I think when we start talking about family and building a strong black community, we as men definitely should be. You want a beautiful woman that turns you on, that you're attracted to. But more importantly, you want a woman that comes to the table with certain innate skills, or teachable, a woman that you
Mm,
can teach her, or you can guide her, instruct her, send her to school, take a bookkeeping course, learn QuickBooks, whatever. A woman that have a talent that she can add to the family, not just someone who looks good in a tight dress or pants. You can get that anywhere. And when we start thinking about legacy, family, mothers who will raise up good sons and daughters, we need to be more broadening of our understanding of what it means for us to have a family and what that really looked like. And we might have to go back several centuries to kind of like get some examination on that as Black people and how we live, because it seemed like we have lost touch with husband and wife and our children and how we treat them and what they're for. You know, kicking a child out of the house at 18, a boy or a girl for that matter, that's not the proper way to raise children. You're
Right.
supposed
mm,
to prepare them. Your daughter should leave the house from your house to her husband. Your son, if you have a business or industry, can be trained up under you or go out in an expert field to develop his skills and then come back and take the business, transform it, and take it to another level. Whatever it is that the
Definitely.
goal that you might have for your family, that's how we should be thinking as men, as opposed to just the carnal, base, animalistic behavior of satisfying an urge. At what point do we as men grow past satisfying an urge?
So if I
And
can
I,
touch on
Thank
that,
you for
right?
saying that.
That's yes, very, very
mm.
true, right?
Yeah, that's
And
very
it's a
important.
I'm sorry, I
it's a
gotta head
it's a
off, fellas. I
oh,
gotta someplace I gotta be. I gotta go.
okay, Mandrill, no problem.
all right,
Appreciate
sir.
No
your,
problem.
coming on the panel today. I don't know if a couple of people were asking me how to join. I think the join button is right near the subscription button. I open up a
Gotcha.
separate screen to take a look at it. Just hit that button, and then I think it'll bring up the various tiers for those of you who are looking forward to joining the BAG group, Black
Okay,
Alphas
not a
Group
problem.
Inc. Okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Talk to you
Thank you for
later.
having me.
All
See you
right.
later.
Hey, drop your email in the back chat as well on the private side.
No problem.
Yeah, and put your name too, so I can, if it's not in your email, I can associate
Awesome,
It is.
awesome.
It's in my email. I mean, you'll see. I'm typing it now.
it. Okay. Yeah, not everybody have their name in their actual email address, so might be something totally different. But yeah, go ahead, Carl. I think you were about to say something. Or
No, I
Alonzo,
was gonna I
go
was gonna
ahead,
say
brother.
something. I was gonna say
Sure,
something.
go ahead.
Basically, so okay, yeah. So when I think about it, I think about the olden times, right? And when you see like let's say a mechanic or a welder, he came from a family of welders, you know. The physicians of the time, they came from a family of physicians. And it's sad to say the slaves of the time mostly came from family of slaves. So what I'm saying here is that some level of nepotism is real, and it's prevalent in our society. So if you come from a mind frame where it is promoting negative things, say I guess like you know what I mean, like I guess gangster rap, you know what I'm saying, brainwashed by gangster rap, for example, like, and if you into that, you have to go through a paradigm shift if there's going to be any, and there's also a time constraint on when you do it because there's going to be a calcification. More on that in another, I guess, topic if it comes up. But like you have to make a paradigm shift if you are actively doing something that is not helping you, or if you actively thinking in a way that's not helping you. Otherwise, you're going to bring about a family who's going to follow on the same thing.
Well, I think as men should learn to think independently. Once you grow up, whatever was missing from your dad, if you didn't have one or had one, whatever was missing from your mom, and whatever ill treatment or what they may have lacked, not being able to offer you. Once you become a man, you have to start to introspect yourself and take note of your surroundings. Where am I? What's my starting line? Where are my competitors? Where their starting line? What do I need to do to improve myself? Stop blaming your parents for what they did or what they didn't do. I think as men, we need to think different. We need to build ourselves. We need to take responsibility for ourselves. And we can't allow ourselves to underperform because of something that was missing some years ago when you was a baby.
I agree.
Yeah,
Cannot let nepotism rule you in
we
a
we've
negative way, at
all
least.
we've all
Sorry.
gone through something in life, but ultimately we are byproducts of the books we read and the people we surround ourselves with. So, in saying that, you see why they took encyclopedias off the shelves, and why there's such a huge influx of people who are watching or looking at social media on a day-to-day basis. That's where we're getting all our information from, and that's what's truly seeping into our conscious and our subconscious mind. Unfortunately, obviously, practical absolutes, you sound like a big time reader, and it sounds like you know where you're going. Unfortunately, there's a lot of brothers that look like us. They're just like, I don't have time to sit to get into the books. I don't have time to surround myself with men who can help me identify where I truly need and want to go in life. I'm just going to spend my time wasting it on social media, things of that nature. So, and unfortunately, what happens from that is they end up casting blame on their parents or their upbringing. Uh, Dude, man,
It's
once you
easier
turn
to, apparently.
exactly.
If I may, I wanted to actually attach that aspect back to something that Sage was talking about earlier, Mr. Lee was speaking about earlier, which was an effective leader in chaos. One of the things I think, especially for our community, that we have to realize is a lot of us can't clearly define what chaos is. And the reason I say that is um, what's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly, right? So oftentimes we're trying to be in the position of a spider as opposed to a fly. Um, and so I think that's where some of the chaos comes from, the leadership, and we have to have clear, defined pictures of what normalcy is. And I think, Mr. Lee, you're an example of that in terms of the efficacy in which you set a standard and stick to that, right? That creates true normalcy, right? Because it's a pattern, and it's something that we're able to kind of build and grow off of. And I'll
Well,
stop there.
obviously, I try to provoke. I try to provoke people to think and look and see things and question why is the way it is and how they can affect it to be better for what it is they're trying to achieve out of life. I'm not trying to tell you how to do it. I'm just trying to tell you, is this what you want to do? If it's so, then do it. So, that's basically what, Sage Talk is all about. It's about waking people up or helping people find their their zenith, their north point, so they know how to go and move forward. Because I see, as I have these conversations, there are a lot of young men that are of similar minds, but they seem like they're isolated. They don't have a place where they can go where other like-minded men can have these kind of discussions where they can see like, you know what, I'm not out here by myself. And sometimes it's very difficult when you feel isolated that you're the only one. If none of your homeboys you grew up with is moving the way you're moving, or you separated your life from their life because of anything that may have happened, either to one of them or to you, or loss of a parent or something that make you self-reflect and change the way you've been moving. Sometimes when you're walking a certain way and you just don't see nobody else, you kind of it can weigh on you. So,
Mm.
one of the things when I started Sage Talk was really to provoke, to kind of get people to think and look at life in a different way than the programming has suggested we should. So really that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons why I give a lot of credit to you, Dr. Lee, and Mr. Lee, and to JR for allowing these conversations on this this platform, this network, because I personally rock with Lapeef Network. I watch all the different shows that they do, and I always enjoy the conversations. But one thing, like I said before, that I always find is missing is that sometimes we don't actually communicate to the the the, the brother who's still growing. We don't communicate
Uh-huh.
sometimes to the brother who's still, grinding and maybe making 50,000 per year or whatever it is. We mostly just have these conversations and talk about all these people who are up here and all
High
those kind of
value.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah, but when we
absolutely.
have this conversation on the stage talk, you as an elder statesman can actually give conversations and wisdom to young men on how to move forward. And I think that's the way it should be, because if we're trying to build a community to improve, to grow, because let's just be honest with ourselves, all fingers are never going to be equal, and all men in America are never going to make $100,000 and above. So there's still some
Absolutely.
guys who are going to be making lower than that. But how can those guys move forward in their situation? That's how the conversation should be going. It's okay when, JR asks this person, oh, what do you think about this topic? And they say, oh, the way I move, the way I this, my level, whatever, that's not going to happen to me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Now, what advice do you give to the younger brothers who are still on the way up? That's where the conversation goes, because that's how we want to move those guys from where they are to move up. And when we talk about, our experiences, the truth is we are all influenced by our past experiences, where we come from. Someone said you cannot be, or it is difficult for you to be what you never saw growing up. If you saw
Absolutely.
leadership, if you saw mentorship, if you saw wisdom from a father, from an uncle, from a brother growing up, you can actually see at least one person that is an example of what you want to be. But if you don't, like many people, it's difficult. And like you're saying, Miss Lee, if those kind of men connect with other brothers who are trying to get there, who are trying to move up, who are trying to learn, or they connect with conversations like the Sage Talk, where men who are there are saying, this is how we did it, this is how you can do it, I think we'll be growing as a community and as black men, and we'll be moving forward, as opposed to people just coming on the conversations, hearing that, oh, the way I move, the way I do this, my woman just sits there and listens to me and whatever. And that guy goes home and expects it to be that way. But bro, you're only making 40,000 per year. How can you expect that woman to do all these things, work so hard, hustle like you're hustling, and come back home and not be tired? That you need to then support that woman so that you guys can grow the black family together. So I just think that these conversations are very, very good, and I think a lot of people are learning a lot of things from it. And I think this is how our conversation should be, not just those of us who are there talking about how we're there and how life is so great, but actually telling the younger guys how we can all get there and how we can grow to become what we want the black community to look like.
So
Definitely.
true.
Hey, Mr. Lee, I got to break out of here. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. No problem. Welcome back anytime you decide to visit us again. One thing I would add to Dr. David's commentary, you know, even for the men who don't make 100,000, if we were to craft and build a true successful black community, even men who are not economically wealthy, there could be infrastructure within the community that no one will suffer and no one would have a hard time to live. You know, back in the day, you used to be able to go to your neighbor's house and borrow some sugar or get some flour. They make a cake, they send you a piece. They make bread, they send you a loaf. I mean, we used to do these things. That's love. Where is that? That's community. And I think these are some of the things that I think if we are able to, in the next 10, 20 years, to redevelop within ourselves as men and lay down the structures within our life and the wives that we choose, the women we choose to be wives, and the communities in which we invest in, knowing our neighbors, and we live in that way, we could reinstitute these qualities back within our society and within the
If
black community, particularly.
if I can, Dr. Lee or Mr. Lee, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to piggyback off of what you were saying in terms of the community, and the building together, especially as men, and specifically black men. I think literally, we have an example of that being done today. One of the things that I say, there's some female content creators who will speak about, black women not being protected. I'm kind of taking a flight here with this. And my thing is, it's because black men aren't protected by ourselves. Prime example, 2017, 31,000 Sikh men entered the trucking industry simultaneously. That's something that even other creators mention to black men to do, but it's very difficult as a one-man operation with all of the things that we already know you have to deal with a business to compete against a fleet of 3,000. But what's already happened? Yep.
No, what I was going to say.
Oh, go ahead.
What I was going to add. Hold your thought for 1 second, because what you said was so powerful. About 3 weeks to a month ago, I did a segment called "The Monolithic Mindset," and what I hear so often in our black community, black YouTube streets, is that the black community is not a monolith. We don't need to be a monolith. We just need to move on the things that matters to us in that way. Because you know what? We suffer like a monolith.
Mm-hmm. Come on now. People don't even realize that, bro. Come on, man.
Talk about the white man like a monolith.
Go ahead, Alonzo. You was on a roll, brother, so don't let me stop you.
No problem. So I think that's one of the things that's difficult because in a lot of these spaces, and I've even actually had a financial consult with a few of these gentlemen who, listen, as a black man making $100,000, $7,500 a week driving trucks, it's great. But like I said, to compete against a fleet of 3,000, things happen like you get outbid on jobs and they give them right of first refusal for the large jobs. But a beautiful thing has happened here today. Practical absolutes. Can you mention again what you're getting into, the field that you'd like to get into?
Oh, it's not my intended field to study in and whatnot in terms of long term, because I have plans on using it to go to med school. But I'm currently studying biochemistry. I'm gonna have my bachelor's in biochemistry this semester, and then inshallah I'm gonna go in for a 2-year program to get my master's.
Alhamdulillah, inshallah.
Got a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, man.
So, in terms of that, you're also, however, being connected right now to who? Dr. David. And he happens to be in a very high position in a field that you're looking to at least roam in, correct? So he may be able to look out for you or keep you on his radar in the next 3, 5, 7, 10, 12 years, whatever it is.
Well, more than likely to be a lot sooner, because as we develop the Black Alphas Group Inc., that'll be a network of powerful brothers, and we'll be doing, after first we'll be in the first phases, we'll just be doing workshops, but after a while, we'll be doing on the ground physical meetups with a function, with a goal and a function to develop and move from a community standpoint. And then once impact rolls out, that's the next phase from a political standpoint. Really having an effect.
I'm going to ask that you move that from YouTube to Patreon. And the only reason I ask you to move it to Patreon is because it has the option to pay annually. And I don't like to pay my bills by the month. I only pay them by the year.
Well, there'll be, and I'm still trying to get some other things situated. There's the support group, which is on the Lapeef Network. But if you decide to pledge to become a Black Alpha, then that you could pay on an annual, and I can see if I can set that up that way for those who want to pay monthly or annually or however they may want to pay it. So that might be something that can be done there. So, but for now, maybe your wife can help out and do your monthly payments. She can remind you, hey, don't forget.
There you go.
Good stuff. Okay. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. We've already been here 3 hours now. Closing statement, Definite G. Why don't we start with you, Dr. David, Practical Absolute, and Alonzo, and then I'll give any closing commentary.
All right. Well, for my 3 qualities, since you asked that question, the 3 qualities, mine are self-actualization, humility.
Define that. Define that. I need concrete
Mhm.
things.
Yeah. So it's really more taking, I'm constantly taking a more introspective approach when I move forward within my life, just to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. At the same time, I'm reaching bigger and better goals in my life, and really understanding the type of man that I want to be, and how I want to show the world the type of man that I am. So that will take
Don't
time, but at the same time,
don't worry
it.
about showing the
Mhm,
world. Become the
mhm,
man that you need to be, and
yeah,
that in itself, through the work, the world will see.
yeah, mhm. And
Go ahead.
yeah, it really comes down to us men making that decision. Are we going to be the leader, or are we just going to stand by the wayside? Either or. There'll always be, especially with this Black Apples group. There'll be men here for you, just to get you where you want to go. But it all comes down to a decision. Are you going to do it, or are you not?
Success in life requires work. It's never easy, and it's not free. Okay, Dr. David, closing
Yeah,
thoughts?
thank you very much, Mr. Lee, for the conversation. I really always enjoy your topics and how you discuss and give out wisdom. Following on from Definite G, my three things are commitment. Be committed to your goals, to your visions, to what you want to achieve in life. Number two is responsibility. Be responsible, be a responsible black man, handle your responsibilities. The people who look up to you, the people who depend upon you, be responsible to them. And lastly is be disciplined. Discipline takes you a lot farther than what your skills or your talents can take you. And Please subscribe to the Lapeef Network, join the team, and always listen to Sage Conversations. And thank you so much, Mr. Lee, and to JR and everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, who did I say was up next?
I'll go ahead and go. I believe it was you said me. Um,
Sure.
I'll try to be concise. So excuses are the tools of the incompetent people, right? And you are the master of your fate, and you are the captain of your soul. If you do not do what you're supposed to do, consequences are going to come. If you do what you're supposed to do, consequences are going to come. It's up to you as to how you want those consequences to manifest in your life.
Awesome.
Thank you. So that's going to be a difficult one to follow up on. As usual, practical absolutes is
Yeah, he be dropping
salute to
it.
you, as especially being 23, man. That hits hard. I'm glad for you for our future. Um, I'd like to say a couple of things. People who follow me know the acronym I'm going to say: work in progress every day and see success. And lastly, when people challenge you, they don't challenge you to challenge you, but they challenge you to challenge you. Accept the challenge.
Okay. This was a great conversation, guys. I didn't know how the show would turn out during the week. I've never done a show during a weekday. We're always on Sunday afternoon. But appreciate everyone for showing up, uh, keeping Shades Talk alive, adding your contributions. Let's keep growing together. Definitely, let's continue to build better black men and better black families. That's our goal. That's our future. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Make sure y'all tune in to King Talk tonight. King Talk, 8 p.m. Central Time. King Talk tonight.